Dudes, happy Saturday. I was down here and I was doing research for the book and for America. And I was like, I might as well involve you guys. You guys might as well hang out and talk to me while I'm doing this, I guess. Chat with me. This probably won't be the most entertaining stream you ever see unless you actually give a shit about what is going on in America right now. So just a forewarning, not the normal show of jokey jokes. And I mean, there's always going to be jokes. Never not jokes. But going to be a lot more looking into the actual stuff that I believe is going on here, as I've pointed out multiple times before. That people that think that Donald Trump is the main character and all this bullshit, y'all are done fucked up. Y'all done fucked up, because the reality is that people like Curtis Yarvin, who apparently now everybody is starting to talk about, and Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, that's the real problem. And the clown in the orange suit is just the distraction. He's just there to be him. And I said this before the election. I said Donald Trump is just the foot in the door for things like either Project 2025 or Techno Oligarchy. And it looks like Techno Oligarchy is winning. However, the Russell Vought just got confirmed. So, you know, maybe Techno Oligarchy and Project 2025 will fight it out. Let's hope to God that they're not compatible. Because if they're compatible, that's going to be an even weirder society. But I'm going to prove it today. You guys are going to get to see a little bit of the stuff that I've been researching behind the scenes and the stuff that's led me to these beliefs. And we're going to kind of go over some of that stuff. But I did recently see that Kyle Kalinske did a video on it, and it actually makes me feel pretty good that somebody else is actually talking about this. So we're going to go over some of that stuff. Let's say hi to everybody and see what's going on. Okay, who all's here? What's up, Doc? God, I love saying that. Brad, y'all better brush up on your drone skills. I am terrible with drones, just so you know. 6 minutes and 36 seconds until it starts. It's starting right now, Mike. It's starting right now. Jamie Lynn, what's up? Natalie, what's up? Jane knows what I'm talking about. Jane was on the video. Jane knows what I'm talking about when it comes to Kyle Kalinske. This is a test stream. This is a test stream for America. What's up, Beetlejuice? What's up, Natalie? What I see coming next is something like the plot from Altered Carbon, where the oligarchs achieve... Yes! Jane, I don't know if you saw the dipshit in the comments. You might have been in the same comment section as me, but I'm not sure if you are. But the guy that said... guy, or the person, I guess, that said... You can't compare real life to movies. It's like, where the fuck do you think they get the idea for movies and books? Like, Ray Kurzweil is one of the most prescient sci-fi writers. Like, there's so much in science fiction that has become a part of our society today. And these, like, I'm telling you, it's across the spectrum. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. There are fucking morons all over the place. And this idea that it's like, bro, you can't say that because it happened in a movie that it would happen in real life. This is why politics are exhausting. That's why life's exhausting. Because really, I mean, to be fucking 100% honest, like, there is legit, like, 80% of our society are morons. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm gonna stand on business. I'm gonna tell you guys, you can quote me. 80% of our society, fucking morons. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Altered Carbon's another great example of exactly what I'm talking about. Altered Carbon, another perfect one. They're pushing us to violence so they can implement martial law. Brad, that's part of it. We're going to get deep on this. I'm going to talk to you guys. This is probably one of the most important things that you will see. If this doesn't convince you that Curtis Yarvin, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and the rest of these techno oligarchs had a plan and are implementing said plan, I don't know what the fuck to tell you then. You know what I have to tell you? Unsubscribe. At that point, I'm just going to tell you, in the words of Eminem, I don't want stupid fans, okay? So if people are going to continue to try to drive home this idea that this is all just Trump doing these things and there's no scheme behind this, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. I don't. Because it's like right in front of your face. Curtis Yarvin wrote this in 2022. It is the Butterfly Revolution, and it talks about all the things to do with the techno-libertarian, cyber-libertarian ideas. If you don't know who Curtis Yarvin is, Curtis Yarvin was referenced as being Peter Thiel's house philosopher. So like a poet with his patron, right? He's like his muse. He's the guy who gives him the ideas. And he wrote in this Substack about using Trump, using somebody like Trump to get techno oligarchy. And here, I'll just read this real quick for you. Let's see if we can find it real fast here. Where is it? Or maybe I should just go to the spot. There's one really prescient part right here. Okay, here you go. For Trump, being president will be exactly like it was. All the photo ops and more, without any papers to sign, decisions to make, etc. The CEO he picks will run the executive branch without any interference from Congress or courts. Does this sound fucking familiar? Probably also taking over state and local governments. Most existing important institutions, public and private, will be shut down and replaced with new and efficient systems. Trump will be monitoring the CEO's performance again on TV and can fire him if need be. Does it sound familiar? It drives me nuts. Isn't the entertainment fun? What up, Vinny? Today's science fiction is tomorrow's science fact. Exactly. What's going on, Jay Rum? What's happening, James? What's going on, Wildflower? This is what I'm saying. This is from April 2022, when Donald Trump was not in office. Trump himself will not be the brain of this butterfly. He will not be the CEO. He will be the chairman of the board. He will select a CEO, an experienced executive, Elon Musk. This process, which obviously has to be televised, will be complete by his inauguration, at which the transition to this next regime will start immediately. Here we go, guys. Check it out. I want you to see this. April 7th, 2022. April 7th, 2022. This was when Biden was in office. This is Curtis Yarvin. If you don't know who Curtis Yarvin is, here we go. I guess I probably have his Wikipedia pulled up. I bet I have his Wikipedia already pulled up. This is Curtis Yarvin. Yeah, that's Curtis Yarvin. This is the guy. Curtis Yarvin is a guy who is legit a very intelligent person. But this is something I've said before to people, is people mistake people being very, very intelligent in certain places as being intelligent overall. In other words, if you have a person that's like extremely good at math, which Curtis Yarvin was, they tend to come off as being, worldly. People tend to think, oh man, this guy's so successful. He's so smart. He went to this college. That means he's a really smart person. But I want to watch this interview maybe a little bit here with you guys, where a reporter for the New York Times kind of exposes the fact that though he may be intelligent in certain areas, he does not, his arguments when it comes to his ideas do not 100% hold up. And this is really crazy because Curtis Yarvin, he believes in a monarchy or a dictatorship. One of his famous quotes is, "America needs to get over its fear of dictatorship." Once again, this guy is Peter Thiel's house philosopher, okay? He is Peter Thiel's house philosopher. Peter Thiel is JD Vance's sugar daddy, the guy who put in the most money ever in a congressional run, $17 million. So Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, Donald Trump. This is real shit. The craziest thing about this is that it parallels communism. His ideals, in a certain manner, parallel communism. Something that's not said in communism, obviously, is the idea that, you're going to have all these people that are equal, but no one starts on equal ground. If we were to say today, we're going to create a society that was either akin to Curtis Yarvin's society or akin to communism, you would have to take into account the fact that the majority of the people that are the Curtis Yarvins, the Peter Thiels, the Mark Andreessens of the world don't start out on the same level as you. So when they take your government, burn it to the ground, and whether it's Curtis Yarvin or whether it's communist, there's going to be a group of people that have the greatest access to power that fill that vacuum. That's why communism looks great on paper, but doesn't work out in use. Same thing goes with Curtis Yarvin's ideas. It's insidious. The way that you can read Curtis Yarvin's writings or listen to Curtis Yarvin talk, and you will say to yourself, wow, you know what? Some of this actually makes sense. Some of this I agree with because it's bait. Because it's not for you. It's for them. Anyways, so this is Curtis Yarvin, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. Let's see. What's happening, Ann? What's going on, AJ? 25 years ago, Yarvin was an internet troll spewing a bunch of crazy crap. Now he's the main driving force, New World Order, the Dark Enlightenment. Exactly. Jay knows what the fuck I'm talking about. Oh my God. I'm just so fucking glad people are starting to talk about this. Like, I have talked about this for months. I talked about this before the election. I have been saying this is what you should be scared of. Donald Trump is a clown. Donald Trump. So I was saying this earlier to my wife, and I'll explain this to you guys. This is my analogy for why Donald Trump is not Hitler. And I know, like, fucking there's people in my, yeah, he is, bro. Stop. Fucking stop. He's not Hitler. This is why he's not Hitler. If you're in a room with Hitler and a bunch of people, and one of them disagrees with Hitler, he sticks the gun to their head, he pulls the trigger, and then he looks around at everybody and goes, who wants to be next? That's Hitler. Hitler has ideas, or had ideas, of what he was going to do and how he was going to carry them out. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is the guy in the room with a bunch of people. One of them disagrees with him. Somebody goes, hey, check out this gun. And they hand it to him, and it's loaded. And Trump has his finger on the trigger because Trump doesn't know gun safety. And Trump accidentally pulls the trigger and kills the person in the room. And that person, everybody looks and goes, hey, you did that. And he goes, well, I didn't know the gun was loaded. He handed it to me that way. How would I know? And when people are like, no, you definitely did that, he doubles down on it and goes, well, that guy disagreed with me anyways, so he deserved it. Donald Trump isn't as intelligent as Hitler was, because regardless of how evil Hitler was, he knew what the fuck he was doing. Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like Curtis Yarvin says in this document, Curtis Yarvin straight up says he gets to do the things he wants to do. He gets to give speeches. He gets to go to the Super Bowl. By the way, he'll be at the Super Bowl tomorrow. He gets to give interviews. He gets to talk and create meme coins. He gets to do all the things that he wants to do. Meanwhile, the CEO does the real work. And that CEO, in this scenario, is Elon Musk. So like I said, some people aren't going to like this shit. People that are like, we have to only hate Trump. It's just Trump. It's the reason. It's a distraction. It's not intentional on Donald Trump's part. Donald Trump thinks he's the main character. But I've been saying this for 4 fucking months. Probably longer. Donald Trump is not the main character. Donald Trump is a patsy. Donald Trump is a useful idiot. And that is no excuse for any of the shit that Donald Trump does. But you are doing yourself a disservice by continuing to just be like, it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump. Meanwhile, in the background, they downloaded all your information in the U.S. U.S. Treasury. Then you have the AG, Letitia James, who I like Letitia James. But the left and people overall, their mentality is too old, too washed. We are behind in this game. We are down 20 points and nobody fucking recognizes it. Donald Trump doesn't matter. What matters is that they just downloaded all this information and Letitia James comes out and goes, we're suing them to stop them from doing this. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. They already did it. Do you really think that Elon Musk downloaded all that information and then because Letitia James tells him to delete it, that information is gone? No, he's going to delete the information on the original hard drive and be like, there you go, there it is. I did what you told me to do. Meanwhile, there are backups of backups of backups of backups of that information because both parties, the left and the right, operate like it's still like 1997. And we're well past that. And people like Curtis Yarvin, people like Elon Musk, people like Peter Thiel, people that are on the cutting edge of technology, that are near the end of their lives, that have billions of dollars in wealth, want to create a world where they get to live forever. Like Altered Carbon. Exactly like Altered Carbon. He's a distraction. Thank you, Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. Let's see. And by the way, this is not subscribers only today. I opened it up to everybody. Susan, that's like my brother. He has a master's in math science computer and a master's in business, and yet he doesn't believe in global warming. Exactly! People have to stop with this idea that they think that because somebody is legitimately very intelligent about one thing or one avenue or lane does not mean that they have an understanding of how things work outside of like what they're good at. So Curtis Yarvin, what I'm trying to say with that, what I'm trying to say is that this game ain't over. It's not over. When you watch this interview, you recognize that Curtis Yarvin doesn't quite have the evidence and stuff to back up the things that he wants to accomplish. But it's up to you guys. It's up to me. It's up to normal people to push back against this mentality. Or else it's going to happen. And you are going to have techno oligarchy. You're going to have techno oligarchy. What's happening, Cito? Hitler turned Germany from a financially bankrupt nation into the world's strongest economy in 5 years. Hitler was evil, but not an idiot. Trump is just an idiot and thinks he's a genius. And I've said this before, is that's scarier because with people like Curtis Yarvin, with people like Peter Thiel, people like Hitler, you can kind of guess where things are going, right? With Trump's scary because you have no idea what he's going to do because he has no idea what he's going to do. Now, when you combine Donald Trump, who has no plan, no ideas, with a bunch of people that are very Hitler-esque in the way that they have a plan, they have a plot, and those people become the people advising Donald Trump, now he's scary. Now he's really fucking scary. Donald Trump is not the main character. Techno-libertarianism, Elon Musk, Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Larry Ellison, all of these oligarchs, they're the main characters. And they want to create a society, and we're going to go over it in a minute when I stop fucking ranting about what he wants to create. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. I've been saying this, and I'm fucking so happy. You guys can probably tell I'm pretty excited that people are finally picking this up and talking. In fact, here, let's do this. Let's watch the Kyle Kalinske video so you guys can get a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about. And I'm also going to point out some things. I like Kyle, but I'm going to point out some things that's a problem with our... I can't think and type at the same time, sorry. I'm going to point out some things about our journalists that are actually really bad.
Gil, welcome.
Oops. I'm going to point out where even Kyle here has a blind spot that's actually really scary. So this is a guy they'll introduce him, I'm sure, in a second, that is kind of on the same tilt as me, right? Like, he's been reading into this shit. He believes this shit's going to happen. And this is Kyle Kalinske and Crystal Ball talking to him about whether or not this is potentially something that they should be concerned about.
Gil, welcome. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You missed the rant, Pep.
Yeah, of course. So before we jump in, I just want to do a plug for your Substack. It's called the Nerd Reich, newly actually renamed the Nerd Reich, which I think is a great.
And that's where, so the Nerd Reich, that's where this comes from. So this is Gray Mirror. This is Curtis Yarvin's Substack, okay? So this gentleman here, I can't remember his name, wrote this article. I've got too many tabs, guys. I'm not a tab person, okay? I've got too many tabs open. Okay, I can't find it. All right, so it's somewhere in here. We'll find it at one point. But he wrote this article, and this is what this Substack from Curtis Yarvin is what's referenced in that article. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here.
Great title for it, and people please subscribe and support the work that Gil is doing.
Called the Nerd Reich.
As I just said in your introduction, I think you have done a better job than I've seen of anyone. Really distilling what the ideology is, really distilling what the plan is, and I think that is so important as we all try to digest this just massive influx of news that we are all trying to make heads or tails.
And so this is what people have pointed out before. There is a shock and awe campaign going on right now, right? But what people haven't discerned is what is the point of the shock and awe campaign. And what our journalists, including, no offense, people like Kyle, who I like, they're feeding into the shock and awe because they're going, look at all these things Trump's doing. Behind the scenes, Elon Musk is doing the things that you should be afraid of. Donald Trump is going to do things that in the next 4 years, we could clean up. They're going to be painful. They're not going to be fun. They're not going to be, especially for our transgender homies out there, especially for the LGBT community, especially for immigrants, especially for women, 90% of our society. It's not going to be great. But we can clean up the mess that Trump makes in the next 4 years. What we cannot clean up is a total dismantling of our system, our government system. He's already exposing flaws in our system that if the Republicans are elected again in 2028, the game is over. He's already showing you can get away with whatever the fuck you want, and all the Congress people are going to do is sue you. And lawsuits take time. Federal judges putting pauses on things. That gives you time. But he's exposing weaknesses in our government that are going to lead to the dismantling of certain governments. And if not lead to dismantling, they are going to set precedents that further along in the future, Republicans and potentially even Democrats will then use to their benefit. This is not where we want to be.
Or tales of. So before we get into Elon Musk specific, can you just give people a little bit who you are, where you came from, how you
no idea how to fight
this particular beat of like Silicon Valley oligarchs?
Sounded Waffle Jackson.
Well, I started my career as a journalist. The first major newspaper I worked for was the San Jose Mercury News back in the dot-com boom in 1998.
So exactly, Kelly. Many of Trump's executive orders are going against existing law. You cannot change law by executive order, but that's not the point, right? They're encouraging him behind the scenes to do these things. So you notice in 2016, it was the exact opposite. 2017, sorry. 2016 was election. 2017, he was in office. You notice in 2017, we had the exact opposite, right? So there was a bunch of people around him that were saying, hey, you can't do those things. It's a waste of time. Let's not waste our time doing those things. In that Curtis Yarvin document, I'm going to show you at one point, we're going to explain how Curtis Yarvin has changed that way of thinking for the people around Donald Trump, which influences Donald Trump to do what Donald Trump wants to do, and that is whatever the fuck he wants. So they know he can't change those laws, but they know they can gum up the system by continuing to get him to do those things. So that way your attention is over there going, man, he signed that executive order. And somebody goes, don't worry. The lawsuits will go through. It'll be taken out. He can't do that. But while you're distracted doing that, the techno oligarchs are actually doing the real bad shit to the government.
They started. After a few years, newspapers were going sour, so I ended up working in politics for a long time, for about 17 years. I was a spokesman, communications director for people like
I hope not.
Governor Jerry Brown, Senator Dianne Feinstein, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Kelly, just so you know.
And then in 2018, I returned to journalism as editorial page editor of the Sacramento Bee and later editorial page editor of the San Francisco Examiner. And for the past 2 years, I've been freelance, sort of combining my political knowledge with my journalism skills to write a couple of newsletters on the Ghost platform. Actually, I left Substack last year. Ghost is a nonprofit that I used. And that's sort of where I am now, is sort of freelancing. And I started writing this story about tech and the ideology because I felt there was a story not being told, and I wasn't sure.
And anybody in California should have a very personal attachment to the techno-libertarian movement, because you should well know about Forever California, about East Solano County, about all of these techno-oligarchs that have been buying up land in East Solano County to attempt to establish this kind of techno city where they have control, where they can buy the local government and they can create regulations that work for them. If you don't know about that, we'll probably go into that too. This is probably going to be a longer stream because I'm not going to do a stream tonight. So, like I said, this is going to be a little bit different than normal. This isn't just me making fun of Trump supporters or making fun of the moronity of the things that they believe. This is going to be much more about what I do in my personal time, the things that I don't really talk about as much on stream, because, to be honest with you, it's exhausting talking to people about these things when the very simplest of the things that are happening, the simplest to understand, still seem to go over people's heads. So I don't talk about this a lot.
No one was
also, people are like, shut up and make me laugh.
There were a few reporters who delved into it. And so I started telling it myself, and here we are.
So, Gil, my first question to start to unpack all of this is just the very basic. What is Elon Musk's ideology? And what does he actually want? What is the end game here? What is he trying to accomplish as he unleashes his Doge apparatchiks in this, attempted coup?
Well, people often make the mistake of thinking this is just about money and tax breaks and fewer regulations. But Elon Musk already has more money than anyone else in the world. Elon Musk already breaks laws and rules and regulations on a regular basis with no consequence. So this is about something far, far bigger than that. This is about power and who gets to wield power in the 21st century. There's a new extreme ideology that has taken root in certain quarters of Silicon Valley, not in all of tech, but in a pretty significantly impactful portion.
So something he said there that's really important, because like I said earlier, or just a minute ago, was that some of the most basic of these ideas go right over people's heads, and it's because what you concentrate on is not what they are concentrating on. So it's really hard for just your basic everyday human being that works middle class or even upper middle class jobs to recognize why a person like Elon Musk would be doing what he's doing. They're like, well, he's already got a lot of money. He doesn't need more money. Yeah, no shit. He doesn't need more money. You're actually correct. He doesn't need more tax breaks. He can get all the tax breaks he wants. He doesn't need more loopholes. He has all the loopholes he needs. What he really wants, and what all these other people, whether they're Jeff Bezos or Mark Andreessen or it's Elon Musk or Peter Thiel, every one of these people want to be able to mold the society in a way that best benefits them. That's not always financially. Financially is hoarding of resources. They have all the resources they need to live and have a successful life for the next 10 generations. That's not what they crave. They don't crave any more money. They crave power. And the way that you get power is by dismantling a government that is meant to provide checks and balances against people like oligarchs. Aristotle said this. Aristotle said you don't want to ever have pure democracy. You don't ever want to have direct democracy. And we don't have that, by the way. We have a republic democracy. We vote for representatives. Those representatives vote on our laws. We very rarely vote on the actual laws. So in polity, which he thought was the best possible scenario, you have people from the aristocracy that create laws, regulations, things like that, right? Like OSHA creates regulations for things in your jobs, because if we all voted on whether or not people should wear hard hats or not, and 70% of our country are like, I don't care, I don't think you need to protect your head, then they don't have to let you know your job doesn't have to provide you with hard hats, and then people get fucking trauma from things falling on their dome. So pure democracy is really bad. The opposite of pure democracy is oligarchy. And so what you do is you create a constitutional republic, something that Aristotle 2,000 years ago knew was probably the best form. But what that does is it creates checks and balances against oligarchs, because you don't want it to go to oligarchy and you don't want it to go to pure democracy. By the way you get a pure democracy is by oligarchs taking power and then people revolting and taking the power from oligarchs. There's a yin to that yang, and they're both very bad. So what we have now is actually a very good governmental system. Are there flaws? Is there corruption? 100%. There's plenty of things that could be worked on. I'm not going to sit here and say that what we're doing now is perfect. That's for fucking sure. There's plenty of things that need to be fixed. But burning it down and acting like giving power over to the richest man in the world is dumb. It's just straight up the dumbest shit you could possibly do. But anyways, I just wanted to point out what he said there. What he said was 100% spot on.
He breaks laws and rules and regulations.
Go Birds, pep talk!
No consequence. So this is about something far, far bigger than that.
Protect your neck.
And who gets to wield power in the 21st century. There's a new extreme ideology that has taken root in certain quarters of Silicon Valley, not in all of tech, but in a pretty significantly impactful portion of tech. And it sees that the 21st century is a power vacuum, and it proposes to fill that power vacuum with a new system of governance by tech corporations and the people who control those corporations. And that's very much what this is about that we're seeing today. It's about who controls the 21st century, who has power. And it's also about the idea of upending nation states, countries like the United States no longer being important in the world, and instead having different patchworks of territories, some call them network states, that
So this is what I've literally been talking about this recently. So it's the idea that instead of states that are ruled by the president and then, underneath him being governors, mayors, all that stuff, instead it's the idea that each state is ran like a company. So you have a CEO of each state. So you take a place like California and you say, look, Californians, you're the workers. You're the factory workers. You are producers of all of our GDP. Look at Texas. Texas is beating us. We have to beat Texas. And so it's this mentality, and you actually see it in Trump too, where it's the cutthroat corporate idea of the cream rises to the top. Everybody competing against each other will lead to these huge innovations that will come as a benefit to society. But the thing about it is you have to always take into account the greed of the person that is in authority. We've all seen it in dictatorships throughout time. Dictators grow paranoid. They become suspicious. Look at Stalin. Stalin's a great example of why communism doesn't work. Because Stalinism was the idea that he's in charge of everything, and anybody at any time that spoke up against him, or if he even thought they were going to speak up against him, he put them on trial, he had them executed, or he sent you to the gulag. That's the same thing when we're talking about these techno oligarchs. So you're going to end up with a person at one point or another who feels that they are the best person to be really ruling the country at one time or another, and then that person is going to start doing cutthroat things, just like you would do in a corporation, to take out their competition. That means that if the CEO of California thought that Texas was doing really well, but they wanted to be better than them, then they would sabotage Texas, and they would attempt to, at many points, probably try to take it over. This is not a plan that leads to cohesion. This is a plan that leads to internal competition that enriches certain people in our society. But they're going to try to sell you this like it's communism. They're going to try to sell you conservative techno-communism, a caste system of sorts. You're going to be good. Don't worry. All of these innovations that you create, you're going to get to benefit from them. Sound familiar? That's what your job tells you. If you just work harder, you'll make more money. If you create something, yeah, we're going to steal the idea from you, but we're going to give you a part of the cut. That's what you're being sold by these techno oligarchs right now.
no longer being important in the world, and instead having different patchworks of territories, some call them network states, that will be ruled like corporate fiefdoms by some of these tech billionaires.
So talk about what I will describe as Elon Musk's ideological daddy, also JD Vance's ideological daddy. Steve Bannon has talked about this guy glowingly. Talk about Curtis Yarvin, who's like the main guy behind all of this.
And something for people to know, Curtis Yarvin, he's not like he's somebody said earlier, was it Jane that said earlier? He used to be just like, he was like a chat dude, he was just a guy that posted shit on forums, and he went by the name Mencius Moldbug. Apparently it's supposed to be Goldbug, and he put an M instead of a G. So, and he changes his name, or used to change his name around based off of philosophers and stuff like that. So that's how it ended up being Mencius Moldbug. Curtis Yarvin is not a billionaire. Curtis Yarvin does not have the wealth that other people have. Curtis Yarvin has other reasons to want this to happen. Curtis Yarvin knows that this is like an ego thing. This is, I know better than you do what's going to make society last, to live longer, to be best, right? But really what it comes down to is the same thing it does with everybody else. Curtis Yarvin wants to be in a position of power to control things because his ego makes him feel as though he's the best to do it. That is not... When you have leaders, when you have people in places of authority, when you have managers at your job, you don't want the person that is striving for the power. You want the person that wants to make things better for everyone. You want the person that legit has worked with you, been on your level, understands your plight, is thinking about what could make your life better, understands it. That's the person. You don't want the person, like we've all worked with that person that's like, I'm going to be the fucking manager at one point, and y'all going to have to do what I tell you to do. Like that person, you don't want them to be the manager. You want the person that works along next to you, that old lady that everybody passes over, but she knows the job in and out. She knows exactly when you say, yeah, yesterday sucked, because she goes, oh yeah, because this happened, and you go, yeah, how'd you know that? And she goes, because I've been doing this job for 20 years. Because I know what it's like. Because I know what it's like to be you. That's why obviously the whole Trump thing has always been really insane. If you watched my last video on that kid from Doge that they just rehired, there's a really good video at the end of it by Eminem where he talks about how the middle class claiming to have any connection to Donald Trump is just insane.
Daddy, also JD Vance's ideological daddy, Steve Bannon has talked about this guy glowingly.
I love my community. You guys are fucking Curtis smart. Yarvin, I love my people.
The main guy behind
because I keep saying I don't want stupid fans, so they unsubscribe.
And what his grand vision is.
Well, Curtis Yarvin is a computer programmer from San Francisco who, back in the early 2000s, used to write an online blog as a guy named Mencius Moldbug. That was his moniker. And he has all of these kind of convoluted, confusing, and cherry-picked theories about the need to replace democracy with corporate-ruled monarchies. He used
we're going to watch a video with Curtis in a minute.
Monarchy and the need to return to monarchism and basically systems of kings. He seems to have upgraded his language to be more framed as a corporate takeover.
Yep, and he's actually gotten pretty good at this. In this video we're going to watch, you can see, because like I said, you're going to have moments. And guys, it's okay. This is something you have to be okay with. You have to, part of critical thinking is understanding that when somebody that you dislike says something that you agree with, you need to compartmentalize that, push it off to the side, and then go, okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's look at why do I agree? Let's let him talk a little bit further. Let's get some more evidence. Let's figure out what his reasonings are for these things, and then I will decide whether or not I agree or disagree. Because just because I don't like somebody doesn't mean I don't agree with some of the things they say. That's everybody's human. They're not black and white. People are gray. So some of the things that Curtis here has gotten really good at is at saying things in a manner that makes them say a lot better. And when there's no one around to push back against him, then those things come off as like, oh, you know what? Actually, hey, I do agree with that. One of the things he says, well, if you allow every single person to vote, you end up with bad leaders. Well, that's where we're at. right? So we all look at that and go, well, he's not wrong about that. If you say pure democracy, as Aristotle pointed out, is bad because at one point or another, the populace becomes audience captured. You get a person that's super charismatic, a person that tells jokes, a person that makes debates fun to watch. Sound familiar? And then the people become captured by that charisma and they vote against their own interests. So Curtis Yarvin, he says things like that. And you go, you know what? Hey, actually, I agree with that. But in this interview we're going to watch, somebody pushes back against those things, and that's what you have to do mentally. That's what you have to do with critical thinking, is you have to say to yourself, well, hold on a second. There's something wrong with this. What is wrong with it? And you have to do the mental math to figure out what exactly, because people hear one thing that they like, and they decide, you know what? This is me. I'm into it. I like it. And that's why we have the culture today. It's much more than that.
And his theory is that democracy has failed.
What's happening, Pinker?
To run governments and the world like a corporation with CEO dictators who are empowered to have absolute control over the lives of their citizens, and that's just the way things should run. And he's written these ideas out. Now he has a Substack called Gray Mirror, where he regularly writes these long essays about overthrowing the current system of governance and instituting this sort of tech authoritarianism, I think it's fair to call it. In one essay from, I think, 2008, he talks about turning...
It's called Techno Libertarianism. It's also called Cyber Libertarianism.
San Francisco into a territory called Frisk Court, where you have to swipe in and swipe out with a card, and everything you do, everything you look at, everything is captured on a total surveillance system that ensures the safety of every citizen. So basically reinventing Orwell's Big Brother.
Exactly.
Curtis Yarvin seems to think
it is very 1984. It's very 1984. You guys just go to work because you're doing the good of everybody. Like I said, it actually parallels communism. It's really trippy, but these techno oligarchs have gotten Republicans to embrace a form of like 1984 communism. Like the idea that we're all working together. No, everybody's going to have a good life. But the reality is you're going to be the proletariat and they're going to be the big brother. And here's the craziest thing about people that support this shit. If you ask a person, do you like where you work? They'll go, oh, it's not too bad. I like the people I work. What about your bosses? How do you feel about upper management? I go, fuck upper management. Fuck those people. They don't know how to do my job. They suck. Made us work 6 days a week. Only reason we have to work 6 days a week is because they're so bad that we fell behind. If they would have done this or they would have done that, we wouldn't have even had to work that Saturday. But then you say, what do you think about a techno oligarch running the country? They're like, dude, that's a good idea. Like, what are you talking about? They're successful for a reason. Yeah, you know why they're successful? George Carlin could tell you. Because they fucking take advantage of morons. That's how. They take advantage of people that are disadvantaged, that have no choice but to work. They only pay them what they have to. And then they take advantage of morons that will fucking jerk them off and be like, he's rich. Are you rich? How smart are you? Not realizing they're talking to somebody that has more money than them, which would literally mean, with your own mentality, that person's actually smarter than you are. It's fucking crazy. People are really crazy.
Brilliant. I think most people with knowledge of politics and history don't see that at all. They see a guy who's really
Deborah every day, but they better. His own. You know what Deborah just said? Deborah just said the whole world is on popcorn time watching USA struggle. The whole world better put their fucking popcorn down and go get a pistol. All right, because everybody outside of the U.S., if you're outside the U.S. right now and you're watching this thinking this doesn't apply to you. This is New World Order shit. This is a corporation. What do corporations do? They look to absorb their competition. That's what they do. Why do you think he's talking about Canada? Justin Trudeau just had that hot mic moment where he said, Donald Trump wants our resources. Donald Trump is legit going to try to take Canada. This is not an America problem. It's starting in America. The virus is here. Okay, I'm gonna admit 100% this is our fault. This is America's fault. I'm sorry to the rest of the world. It's our fault. But it's going to spread. Elon Musk is already interfering in foreign countries' elections because they don't have rules against money being used in their elections from foreign entities. He's already doing that. This might be popcorn time for everybody outside the U.S., but you're going to get caught with your hand in your pants and your popcorn in your mouth if you don't get the fuck off the couch and figure out what you're supposed to be doing right now. Because these hypocritical ass MAGA supporters that were claiming that Joe Biden was creating a new world order and he was a imperialist and he was doing all these things are supporting a dude who literally brought up manifest destiny. Donald Trump brought up manifest destiny. If you don't know what manifest destiny means, you should go look that shit up, especially if you don't live in America. Because he's going to manifest his ass all up in your government. That's what it means.
Crazy theories. Unfortunately, people like Peter Thiel do consider him very important. Mark Andreessen, as you mentioned, Bannon and others.
I'm going to be over there with
right
Canada
now,
too.
Kind of seeing his theories being put into practice, although you don't
the
really
Republicans
see
want a new world order.
It's
crazy time.
And so basically what you have is a guy who was a blogging troll in the 2000s.
What a mighty.
Become a major political philosopher for some of the richest men in the world who are now wielding power within the Trump administration.
Yeah, we should just point out that, to your point, these people now have political power. This isn't theoretical anymore.
And this is what I was saying. Not to knock Kyle. I love Kyle. I love all my alt-left people that are putting in work. I just want to make sure everybody understands it because on the left, people get so shitty, get so mad. I love Kyle. But you have to realize in this conversation, even though Kyle has been doing this for as long as Kyle has been doing this, Kyle is the undereducated person in this interview. And that's scary. I once watched, I'm going to talk about a controversial figure. Once again, don't fucking get mad. I watched Destiny talk to a Vice reporter once. And this Vice reporter had like 40 years, right? 40 years of journalism. And he was like, yeah, this one thing, though, is happening. The right is right about that. And he's like, Destiny's like, no, they're not. And I can prove they're not. Would you like me to prove they're not? He's like, sure, fine. What do you think? And he goes through like, nope, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I've debunked this. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And the Vice guy goes, well, that's crazy. He's like, you're so good at this. And my mind was blown away that this YouTube former game streamer, like kind of drama political dude, that's a huge debater. He's an amazing debater. Was able to school this 40-year political journalist. And it blew my mind. I was like, holy fuck, man. It really said something to me. People are really good about covering certain topics. Things that that's their spiel. That's the thing they're interested in, right? So with Kyle, it's a lot of like progressive stuff. A lot of the Israel-Hamas stuff. Those are the things he's super well educated on. He's actually really well educated on Biden too. But you see where our journalists have some severe blind spots when it comes to things that they've never really gotten into or thought about. And this is why creating ecology amongst our media, specifically in YouTube, in content creators, is actually really important. I've talked about this with Benjamin Dixon before. I chat a little bit here and there with Adam Mockler and Insta on DMs. I want people to work together because there's no way any one of us can be the end-all, most knowledgeable person about all topics. We need to form a Voltron of sorts of people that are each good at different things. This person's good at debating. This person knows a lot about techno libertarianism. This person knows a lot about how our government works. And then we need to communicate, and we need to stop eating each other. We need to stop using YouTube to make money and get views and clicks off of other people's drama. I am so fucking tired of watching Elon Musk and these techno-libertarians rampage through the government, stealing people's private fucking information, and I click on YouTube, and it's like, yo, look at this guy's personal drama. Look at this girl's personal drama. And it's a left-wing content creator talking about left-wing content creators' fucking drama. This is why nobody takes it seriously. I get that people need money. I understand the game. I get it. Not everybody has the benefit I do of having a well-paying job outside of content creation. But we all need to start talking, and that's why I'm saying I'm not shitting on Kyle here, because he's doing exactly what I'm saying. Kyle is doing the very thing I'm saying. He is talking to somebody that knows something about a topic that he doesn't know much about. And we need more of this. This is how we dig our way out of this hole. We're down 20 points. We need to combine, talk to each other, stop fucking virtue signaling that you're on a higher moral plane than everybody else in your party is. Talk to each other. Communicate. Respect each other. Appreciate each other. And please, for the love of God, stop making fucking drama videos about each other. Shit, like, it's a bunch of fucking children.
I mean, you mentioned a couple of billionaires there, Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel.
Drink's good at fucking up.
Just recently on the #1 podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan Experience, where Joe Rogan sat there and nodded along in agreement to them for 3 hours straight.
Right.
As they lied about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the National Labor Relations Board.
But that is part. Okay, so Benny is asking, and that's an important question. Benny says, we know the situation. What's your suggestion of solutions? Well, I've talked to you a little bit about this before, Benny. What I said, and I meant it, was we all have our lane, right? Like, some people are going to say things like, I have a family, I have children, I have a job, I have, the hours of my day are completely filled all the time, every time. Well, you can create a YouTube channel and speak out on it. You can write blogs. You can talk to your senators. You can get a hold of congressmen. So for that person, that's their lane. For people like my good friend Benny, who's got fucking 26-inch pythons, maybe she on the street. We need protesters. We need activists. We need people showing up at Congress, showing up at your local office and saying, I'm not dealing with this shit, and if you don't get out there and do something about it, you won't be in office the next time that we vote. I will find somebody that will do the job. So we need people that are boots on the ground. It's like the military. You have to have different sections of people. And that's what I'm even saying with what I'm saying here is we need people that are focused on techno-libertarianism, people that are drilling down on who the fuck Curtis Yarvin is. Why were we unaware of Peter Thiel's politics? We need people that know enough about this lane. We need people that, there's the guy who used to be one of Destiny's friends, Pisco, who's a lawyer. We need lawyers that are like speaking to what they can do, what lawsuits they can put into effect. So we need to be taking every single avenue, a strategy that bombards your enemy with multiple different angles. You need people on the street. You need people on YouTube. You need people in law. You need to start talking to the people in your family that do not believe these things and try to reach them on a personal level. You need to show them these things. You need to show them Curtis Yarvin literally saying that Donald Trump is going to be his puppet, and then make the connection for them of Peter Thiel to JD Vance to Curtis Yarvin. Like, I hear what Benny's saying. I respect the shit out of it. You know what I'm saying, Benny? Like, I respect the shit out of what you're saying, because that's real. Is like a lot of people get on here and want to, like, like I said, it pisses me off. This is a different show than normal because I said it before. I try to say like important shit and people are like, dude, can't you just make me laugh? Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, fucking make me laugh, clown. And it's like, maybe that's my lane. Fucking up my own logic here. Maybe that's my lane. But then somebody else needs to fill the other lane. Then people need, if I'm here to make you fucking laugh, then somebody else needs to be out there fucking telling you guys about, techno-libertarianism and bringing logic and common sense to these arguments and showing you guys what the fuck is going on. Like, that's what we got to do. Like, and Benny's right. Like, there's not enough soldiers. There's not enough soldiers on the ground. There's not enough people nowadays because everybody's exhausted. Everybody's apathetic, and that's part of the fucking plan. The plan is to bombard you with shock and awe, to exhaust you. So you got to disconnect sometimes. Hey, look, I love my boys. I love Adam Mockler. I love Luke Beasley. Love all the content creators out there. And I'm not about to shit on any of them because, like I said, I am about like forming a glue with these people. But every once in a while, you don't need to watch that fucking Trump panics and freaks out and calls people the N-word video. Okay? Goes for me too. Every once in a while, if you're exhausted, if you're tired of seeing all this shit, then you need to disconnect from the entertainment portion of it, the portion that gets you all worked up and frantic. You need to disconnect from that and say to yourself, you know what I want to do this time? I'm gonna look into who this Curtis Yarvin guy is. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna check out his Wikipedia. I'm gonna read some books. I'm about to do an interview with a guy from the New York Times that wrote a book on McCarthyism. So how does McCarthyism, how does it set the tone for our politics today? I want to know that, so I'm doing an interview with the guy because that's knowledge that I want to bring in. Like, one of my lanes is I have a really good memory. I have a great recall of things. So I do these talks with Jeffrey Boutwell. I do these talks with Richard Abel. I do these talks with Ira Shapiro and Lowell Baer. And out of each one of these talks, I can represent something from those conversations that is pertinent to this situation. I can tell you about how Lowell Baer talking about how he used to work with Republicans during the Endangered Species Act and how he would reach across the aisle and how our prior politics were much more bonded than they are today because Republicans recognize, hey, I want my kid to be able to see a red-tailed hawk. I don't want it to go away because they were human, just like we were. I can tell you that from my talk with Richard Abel. In the first few minutes of that conversation, he literally says that the things that Trump will do when he gets in office, this is from like a year ago, the things that Trump will do when he gets into office will mimic the first part of Adolf Hitler's administration. I got another article up here. How Hitler dismantled a democracy in 53 days. Yeah, Richard Abel literally said this a year ago. So you know what I'm saying? Like, we each got our lane and we each got to like be able to do what we're doing. And so that's why I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing this little thing with you now, because I know it's going to like lose subscribers. I know that certain people are going to be like, bro, that's not what I'm here for. I don't want to hear you talk about, I want you to make me laugh. I want you to be a clown. I want you to make fun of MAGA. Like, that's what, it makes me feel good that you make fun of MAGA. And, like, but then somebody else has to do the fucking work, man.
Experience where Joe Rogan sat there and nodded along in agreement to them.
Dance, monkey, dance. Pep knows.
They lied about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the National Labor Relations Board. So this is, they have political power and they also have cultural sway based on massive outflow of misinformation that they're putting out there on a regular basis.
That's before meth.
So when I read Curtis Yarvin's the book The Dark Enlightenment, and I was really starting to dig into these characters as Elon Musk became increasingly influential in the Trump campaign and funneling, you know, an insane amount of money, $250 million, probably more, into the Trump campaign. I was really thinking that the model he had in mind was Trump as the sort of CEO dictator. But
nope. See what I mean? Crystal didn't even go and read the article. Well, no, she probably did. I'm probably jumping ahead.
It seems now that actually it's Elon who is put into that role.
Yeah, here we go. Go back over here. This is Curtis Yarvin's article. This is Curtis Yarvin's article right here. I guess I could control F this. Look at my old ass over here. Trump himself will not be the brain of this butterfly. He will not be the CEO. He will be the chairman of the board. He will select the CEO from an experienced executive, Elon Musk. This process, which obviously has to be televised, will be complete by his inauguration, which it was, at which the transition to the next regime will start immediately, which it did. For Trump being president will be exactly like it was, all the photo ops and more, just like it is. He's going to the Super Bowl tomorrow, without any papers to sign, decisions to make, etc. The CEO he picks will run the executive branch without any interference from the Congress or courts. Sound familiar? Probably also taking over state and local governments. Most existing important institutions, public and private, will be shut down and replaced with new and efficient systems. Trump will be monitoring the CEO's performance again on TV and can fire him if need be. I'm going to point this out again. This was written April 7th, 2022. This was written 3 years ago. And yet every one of these things is exactly what's happening.
Role, and Trump is the secondary, sort of almost like ceremonial position of more like the chairman of the board. Talk about the political and power dynamic between those two.
Well, in 2022, Yarvin wrote an essay called The Butterfly Revolution, in which he outlined the idea for, instead of Trump in a second administration being at the center of everything, Trump would more act as chairman of the board, and he would install a sort of CEO figure to basically be the dictator of the federal bureaucracy and to start breaking rules, purging the bureaucracy, which is a long-time idea of Yarvin's. He calls it RAGE, retire all government employees. We see...
I just want to call out something Mighty just said. Mighty said, Robert Evans, Behind the Bastards, expert in fascism. Behind the Bastards is a great podcast. You guys want to watch a good podcast. I'll bring him up here so you guys can see. We'll put him in the chat. Because guess what? They have a podcast on Curtis Yarvin and on Elon Musk. Here you go, Curtis Yarvin right here. My boss has been telling me to watch these guys forever, and I never did because I just have so much to do all the time. And then one day I was looking at Curtis Yarvin shit, and I saw that there was a Behind the Bastards on Curtis Yarvin. I watched it. It's legit really good. It actually has Ed Helm from The Office on it, who's also very intelligent. So check out Behind the Bastards. If you don't watch Behind the Bastards, you should definitely watch. Yeah, the one on Oprah. Dude, I forgot about all the Oprah shit. I'm telling you guys, I can draw a line from the 1970s where techno bros and hippies found common cause in certain things in the Good Earth catalog days of hippie in the 70s. You can draw a line to the 90s and the WWE Degeneration X model of entertainment where like women were being slapped and having their clothes torn off, and Linda McMahon was getting body slammed, and Donald Trump was fighting with Vince McMahon in the ring. So you can draw a line from those people to that WWE era. You can draw a line from the WWE era to the Jerry Springer era, which also involves the Trump reality TV show era, which also involves Oprah, who Oprah was fighting with Jerry Springer for ratings back then. And then you can draw a line from them to the 4chan era of online degeneracy that got Donald Trump elected. So I tell everybody this. You should look into techno-libertarianism. There's a pretty good, is it Second Thought? Maybe we'll watch that video real quick. Oh, what am I doing? Do they have it under techno-libertarianism? I can't remember. Is it this one? It might be this one.
We all live in Peter Thiel's world, from business to...
Yeah, I think it's this one. So, I'm pretty sure it's this one. Maybe we'll watch this. Okay, so that's Second Thought. Or no, it's More Perfect Union. Sorry, Second Thought is the show. It's More Perfect Union. He talks about how Peter Thiel became Peter Thiel, which has foundation in techno-libertarianism, Curtis Yarvin, all those guys, right? So you can watch this, then you watch that Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix, and then you can watch the Jerry Springer Netflix documentary, and then they have a third documentary called The Antisocial Network. If you watch these things in this order, you can draw a direct line from where the hippies of the 70s that hated big government, that were anti-vax, anti-war, found common cause with techno-libertarians that wanted small government, less regulation, and were very forward-thinking about like technology and progress and stuff, and what they would have to do to achieve those things. They didn't match up perfectly, but they matched up close enough. And when you look at MAGA today, MAGA is the same thing. MAGA is the right-wing people that have been controlled and manipulated through their fear of the other, and the left that was fear of big government, fear of big pharma. So they took the fear of both groups. As I've said before, MAGA is a unity party. They brought the right and the left, and they made them both afraid of things, and then gave them common cause. And that's why you have MAGA today. And I think it all started, obviously I'm skipping over some steps, like the Tea Party Patriots, the Occupy Wall Street, the Bernie Bros. There's a lot in between that. But to get to where we are today, and the problems that we are having today, you can literally follow that path, and I guarantee you'll see the same things I saw. Drop to 20. You guys just drop it in mine. I'll do it. You guys know you can post whatever links you want in my chat, as long as you're not being assholes. Like, don't be douchebags, but like, yeah, 21st century suffragettes. Diane. Here you go. This is 20. I guess I'm not.
230.
Hey, who's that? That's Diane. Here you go. These guys also, and Benny. Benny, drop your own damn link. Not dropping yours for you. You got to do your own work. But we should be supporting. We should be supporting each other. One of the biggest problems right now is the left's in its need to eat each other. Like, I've said this before. This is the right. The right is stuck together like glue. This, let's see if I can get myself in here. This is the left. And if one of these little piggies gets mad and doesn't like something that one of these other little piggies says, this is the left. Fucking just eating itself and fighting. Meanwhile, a guy on the right can literally essay a woman and they stay like this. Now, I'm not saying that the left should go that route. There is a moral boundary in which the left stops becoming the left if they cross it. But you can't be this over fucking here fighting against everybody while the right is like this. You will lose every day of the week. And that's why I said it. When somebody on the left has a scandal, I watch countless content creators create video after video after video after video about somebody's personal life. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be called out. They deserve to be called out. But when you have left-wing media content creators doing it to left-wing media content creators, you create a polarized atmosphere that no one feels safe in. And then you end up with some of these people going over to the right. Because I've said this before, the right's door is wide open. Cenk's right. Cenk is right about that. It is much easier to make your way over to the right than it will ever be to make your way over to the left. Because on the left, there are moral boundaries that we say we don't like that you cross those. We don't want you here. On the right, you can say, these guys hurt my feelings and I want to come over here. And they'll go, yeah, come on over. You gotta start at the bottom. That's what Cenk's fucking up. Cenk thinks he can come over there and just like, he can be somebody. That's not how it works. It's like college over in the MAGA Republican realm. You got to get hazed. You got to say the N-word a couple times. You got to like commit a crime that they can hold over your head and shit like that. Like, that's what the right's like. But on the left, like, you know, like I said, start supporting people. Like, somebody should 1,000% be supporting Benny Loco. Because Benny gets out there and does shit. So if you ain't got the time to be out on the streets and doing what Benny's doing, then you need to be shouting Benny out. And you need to be going to Benny's channel and fucking saying hi every once in a while. And when you got Diane, you know, entertaining you guys by playing some music and shit like that, shout her out. Like, she's doing that. Like, she's trying to give you something to concentrate on that's not all this bullshit. You know, like, that's what we got to do. We got to create an ecology on the left that is much more consolidated and together than what we currently have. One of the people that drives me the most nuts right now is Nina Turner, the girl on Twitter from Bernie Sanders' campaign. She's a former senator or something like that. She drives me nuts because she just morally grandstands all fucking day about, you know, how she was right to get people to not vote for Kamala, even if Trump's doing all this fucked up thing to Palestinians because the left sucks and they're all idiots and, you know, we wouldn't be in this problem if it wasn't for Kamala. And it's like, dude, stop. You won. You won. You shit on Kamala and you shit on her enough that enough people in Dearborn, Michigan stayed home. You did it. Congrats. Why do you keep going? Like, you are just creating more division and more ammo for the other side. And that shit is just driving me nuts right now. So I've been commenting on her ex. Hold on, Vinny, I gotta get back to the research. I told you guys, this ain't a normal show. It's supposed to be talking about Curtis Yarvin. You guys are playing into my fucking ADHD.
That being carried out in DOGE, the Department of Government
Efficiency.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Ginger Army, Kelly.
Elon,
thank you, Kelly.
What it is. Mm-hmm. Then, after purging a bureaucracy, you bring
just
in
that Nana asked what happened in Dearborn, Michigan. The majority of the Muslim population voted for Donald Trump. They chose to. Oh, is she on TYT? No, I think they shit on her on TYT. Allegedly. I've never looked this up, so don't quote me on this, but allegedly Dearborn, Michigan, and other certain Muslim populations in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and possibly, I don't know, is there any Muslims in North Carolina? But they voted for Trump because one of them said in an interview, I know that Trump might do bad things to Palestinians, but Joe Biden's administration are doing bad things now. And so we're going to vote for Trump. And here's the thing. I understand human beings, man. I get it. I know. I have friends that like argue with me so strongly about this. I get it. I understand. Like, I told you guys before, my stance on Joe Biden and Israel Hamas was that Joe Biden had obligations as an ally to help Israel on October 7th. After that, Joe Biden, in my opinion, had a obligation to human beings to step back from Israel and say, you're a big boy. You want to continue doing this? This is going to be on you. This blood is going to be on your hands. That is my personal opinion of what he should have done. And I know lots of people will be like, that's fence riding. No, it isn't. It's just common sense to me. You can't say to your allies, we're not going to help you or defend something that you're going to do, because then your other allies look at you and go, well, what if you disagree when I do something? Why should I support you? It's the same reason that U.S. aid exists, right? People are confused as to what U.S. aid is. U.S. aid creates relationships throughout the world by, feeding other countries, introducing infrastructure to other countries. And that's another way that we build, a better way that we build relationships with other countries so that in our time of need, we have friends. So Israel is an ally when it comes to biotech. Israel is an ally when it comes to the military. They're a front against certain elements in the Middle East that potentially would like to destroy the United States of America. So we have obligations as an ally, but I disagree full-hearted with everything that happened after our initial support of Israel. And I get why those people in Dearborn, Michigan said that. But I also have to say this. You chose to vote against women's rights to healthcare access. You chose to vote against LGBT people's rights because trans people are literally being fucking erased now. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, go look at the government website. Tell me what that acronym says now. It says LGB. That's it. No T. Because they want you to believe that trans people don't exist. So you voted against that. You voted against immigrants' rights. Undocumented people that are here trying to, like, live a good life and pay into a system that they don't even get to benefit from. So as much as I fucking understand 100% why you did what you did, I still can't agree with it. I just can't.
Government with no concern for loyalty to democracy or the Constitution of the law.
And now they're upset.
Loyalty to the dictator who runs the government now. And then you start systematically
dismantling
democratic institutions, making sure they can no longer function.
Yeah, Tia's doing the work.
You defy the courts. You defy Congress. You push everything to the brink and see who really does anything.
What up, Reverend?
Is there any consequence for deciding that Congress doesn't matter anymore? Is there any consequence for deciding that you don't have to follow the laws, especially when you have a president who will just pardon?
Natalie, you definitely exist.
And then after that, you start seizing media control, academic control.
They just want to act like you don't.
Reformatting everything
because they're insecure.
So the main message getting out to people is pro-authoritarian regime, pro-dictatorship, and that it's very hard to get any competing message out. We're not quite at that stage yet. We do see some weird stuff happening, the way the Washington Post and the LA Times have owners now who have become sort of pro-MAGA, or at least kowtowing to MAGA.
But did you see what happened with Washington Post, where that guy, he posted that anti-Trump or just critical of Trump article, and now Trump's calling for him to be arrested? Like, come on, dude. Come on. Like, MAGA Republicans, like, the brainwashing is so thick, man. Like, it's like you guys accused Biden for years of the Twitter files and like, you know, subduing information, and your whole thing was like Trump is going to be the exact opposite. So even if I want to give you that you're being good faith and you believed the things about Twitter were legit bad, right? Then you also have to agree that the things that Donald Trump is doing is bad as well. And that's like something I pointed out in that racism video I pointed out the other day. I get all these fucking Trump supporters that come through my comments that say shit like, we're not all racist. You're trying to say Trump supporters are racist. They're not racist. I'm like, I post videos like fucking weekly of you guys doing racist shit. Like, so if you're not racist, then speak out against it. Say, that Trump supporter does not represent me. The things that person said are terrible, and they should not be uttered. They shouldn't be. That might be their right to free speech, but I disagree with them. That's all you have to do if you're a Trump supporter. All you have to do is speak out and say the shit that these racist Trump supporters are saying is wrong. But you're afraid to because you're in a cult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll expect to see more of that pressure applied to both journalism and to academia and other institutions. The idea being that we can have nobody publicly challenge this. People have to act like it's normal and go
Bill's a bitch.
And that'll give us the best chance of success.
Well, and we've seen some of that.
You guys can all type in chat if you want. Bill's a bitch.
Going after NPR and
Bill's a bitch.
They required the transcript to be released of that Kamala Harris interview. Trump himself has been suing various media organizations, and then in several instances,
some
those media
dipshit Trump supporter,
organizations, rather than fight, would have likely been winning battles in court, because of course very hard to prove, defamation. There's all kinds of First Amendment protections. Instead, they've just effectively bent the knee, issued what amounts to a bribe to Trump in the hopes that they can, get their mergers through and go along to get along and not attract his scrutiny or have their executives investigated and potentially jailed.
Yeah, they're self-censoring. Yep. It's authoritarianism through fear is what we're witnessing. You pointed out with CBS, they paid him $50 million in the hopes of saying, hey, we're cool.
Yep.
We're cool. You saw Mark Zuckerberg do that with a $25 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they kind of go off onto a little bit of a tangent about, like, once again, the things that they like to talk about. And that's not really what I want to talk about in this video. So we're going to watch something else. But, like, I do like that Kyle's opening up and talking to him. Because here's one of the things about this. I want you guys to all understand something here. The problem with the Curtis Yarvin, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, all of that stuff talking about it is that the left has been very critical of conspiracy theory, myself included. We've all been very, very critical of conspiracy theory. And so for the left, as is oftentimes the case, when they say something, they try to not be hypocrites about it because they don't like being called out for it. The left is very self-censoring. The left will not do certain things because they have spoken out against them before. I've said it before, like people will get mad if you say Trump-tard. Oh, don't use ableist language. People get mad if I act like I'm gay to make fun of a Trump supporter and tell them that, we'll go have a good time behind a dumpster, but they got to be bottom. People get mad at that. Like, oh, you shouldn't say that. Like, they don't like that because they feel like it's hypocritical. I'm not a Democrat. I am me. I do whatever the fuck I want, and I don't care who likes or doesn't like it. So my morals and values closely equate with left-wing progressivism, and I'm glad that you guys let me hang out. At the end of the day, that's how I kind of feel about it, because I refuse to be purity tested by anybody, regardless of party. Don't give a shit. People have to get over this. Yes. Does techno-libertarianism and cyber-libertarianism, does it sound fantastic? Does it sound out of this world? Does it sound like a made-up story? Does it sound like conspiracy theory? Yeah. Yeah, it does. But if you're afraid of being called Blue Anon, there you go. Again, the left just like eating itself. The left eats itself so much. If you're afraid of being called Blue Anon, that's your problem, not mine. Because everything that I look at when I see the evidence of what Curtis Yarvin is doing, of what Elon Musk is doing, of what Peter Thiel is doing, seems to lead to what Elon is doing right now. So I'm going to continue to say Donald Trump is not the main character. Elon Musk is. If that upsets people on the left because they're like, no, Trump's the enemy, like we have to concentrate on him. No, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I've said this before. This channel has always been about making fun of Trump supporters. It's never been... I've always thought Trump was a moron. I always thought he was an idiot. I always thought the things that he did were bull in a china shop type of shit. I never thought that Trump was Hitler. I never thought that Trump was capable of rising to that level. However, I did think that Trump might, through his moronic actions, bring about some very Nazi Germany type shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to keep talking about this because I'm not afraid of people saying, oh, look who you are. Who's the conspiracy theorist now, bro? Well, yeah, sure. Why not? Works for me. Got you guys in the office. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, and unapologetically existing to resist. Good job, Christina. Do what you want. What, you don't want to subscribe to one label? Yeah, I know. Exactly. I say it all the time, Pep. It's people represent values, parties do not. And one of the things that I found just insane is that you can talk to like a conservative, like a traditional conservative, right? And they'll say, hey, I just think, I think women getting abortions, it's murder. And you go, okay. And you talk to them and you find a point of agreement where you go, can we agree that like a woman her life shouldn't be at stake? Like if like an ectopic pregnancy, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, all that stuff. I understand that. Hey, and they get to a point where they say something along the lines of, they go, you know what? I'm pro-life, but that doesn't mean you can't be pro-choice. It's just, I choose not to be pro-life, I choose not to be pro-choice. And you go, oh, okay, cool, man. And then they get around all the other conservatives that believe in conservative values, and they can't say that. Because they're afraid they'll get kicked out of their tribe. They're afraid they'll be exiled, excommunicated. And that's why I refuse to allow myself to be labeled by being in a party. I know that creates this like kind of like love fest of, hey, we're all on the same fucking team, good go. Like we have the same values. Like, no, we don't need to label ourselves as a party to believe the same things. It's not necessary. We should be past that. We should have evolved past the need for that type of tribalism. You should just understand that I'm on your side. I believe the things that you believe, fundamentally the things that you want in life people being taken care of, their health being taken care of, people having equal rights, people not being discriminated against. Those are all my values too. And you don't need me to be in your group for me to support you, and I shouldn't have to be in your group for you to support me. So that's how I feel about parties and political parties. I hate political parties, to be honest. What up, Sean? What's going on, Sean? Let's see. Let's watch this. This is actually a pretty good explanation. I like this video. And it does go into a little bit of techno-libertarianism, but it goes into a lot of bit about Peter Thiel. So why don't we watch a little bit of this video?
To technology,
I'm trying to keep it interesting by not just reading shit to you guys.
To shape society and control your life.
Yeah, Second Amendment. Yeah,
even more.
I can go get my Glock right now.
In 2022, Thiel's investment in hand.
My wife will get mad at me though for
some of whom he nurtured
waving my Glock
years,
around on
shaped
stream.
The narrative for the entire election.
JD Vance will be the next Republican senator. A victory for Peter Thiel, who spent millions backing JD Vance.
But Thiel wasn't always on top of the world. In 1996, Peter Thiel was lost.
I believe he spent $17 million on that too. Also, when was it that Vance got elected? Ask yourself how quickly Vance rose to power. You tell me money don't buy shit? Money got this man from nothing to the senator to the vice president in what, like a year? Year and a half?
Entire election.
JD Vance will be the next Republican senator. A victory for Peter Thiel, who spent millions backing JD Vance.
But Thiel wasn't always on top of the world. In 1996, Peter Thiel was lost, a law school graduate and the author of a middling book on the dangers of diversity.
The problems of racism, sexism, other forms of oppression
have
been
Reverend.
vastly exaggerated.
But then he found something: venture capital. In just a few short years, Thiel took $1 million investment from friends and family and created a massive amount of wealth for himself. Lots of tech.
Hold on. Just say that one more time to yourself. Peter Thiel took a $1 million
friends and family
loan from friends and family. The game is rigged, guys. How many people in chat right now? You put a 1 in chat right now if you have friends or family that you can borrow $1 million from, all of them combined. All of them combined, even. Put a 1 in chat if you can borrow $1 million from your friends and family. If you can't borrow that much money, put a 2 in chat.
And created a massive amount of wealth for himself. Lots of tech founders say they're going to change the world. It's a big part of the VC shtick. But Thiel is different.
Our goal was nothing less than to replace the US dollar by creating a new digital currency.
For him, it wasn't about making a pitch sound good to investors. It was about using the philosophy.
And people need to remember too, okay? People need to remember that these guys that are creating Bitcoin and digital currencies and all this shit, that shit isn't it's like a decentralization of government, so that way we're all on even footing. No, that's so they are better off where they are, because Bitcoin and all that stuff, like, it's nice for us, like this idea of decentralization, understanding that like the government doesn't have control of our money. They can't just shut down the system. I think all of us, have that fear that one day the government could just say, you don't get to leave. We'll keep your assets, right? Right now, probably a lot of us do. But with that being said, that's all the benefit you pretty much get from it, is that there's like no real tracking on your money. The government doesn't really have control of it. Mind you, the government's about to be the one that institutes it, so even that part goes away from you, okay? But the benefit to the ultra wealthy and all these tech people is way bigger than that. Like, Bitcoin allows foreign governments to interfere in our elections. Bitcoin allows people to launder money from within the country. Bitcoin will allow these guys to do things, most likely once we get to like quantum computers, that do in fact mean that they can hack and steal your money. I mean, if you're using things like Coinbase and stuff like that, like they've already had hacks and stuff. So it's like one of the biggest arguments I get from Bitcoin people is like, no, you don't understand. It's the encryption is too good. There's no backdoor. There's always a backdoor. There's always a backdoor. Okay. Always. Somebody has the keys to the kingdom. And if somebody is in government and they are creating a system that involves money, they're definitely going to have the keys to the kingdom.
Philosophy of venture capital investing to forcibly shape the world to his liking. And the world Peter Thiel wants to create
too many broke-ass friends.
And rooted in VC philosophy.
Kathy, I'm with you
Monopolization, anti-democratic ideology, and absolute power for corporations over American
no one's let me borrow that shit.
This is The Classroom from More Perfect Union. And today we're looking at how Peter Thiel got rich, and what it means for the rest of us. Growing up, Peter Thiel was like a classic nerd trope, obsessed with D&D and sci-fi. Not just Star Wars and Star Trek, but the real stuff. Clark.
Yep. And just so you guys know, this is, I mean, it's sad. Like I've said this before. Like I grew up, I always said like, I wanted to be the guy that reads dragon books and and can bench over 200, right? So that's me now, okay? I can bench 200 plus. Well, probably not today. It's been a long winter, okay? I'm probably like back down to like 180 right now, okay? Complete honesty, okay? But once we're back on the program in the summer, we'll be able to bench over 200 again, and I like to read books. And the reason I was like that was because I come from like a really bad place. So I grew up, you know, scrapping. Like physical violence was never off the table where I come from, you know? And so that kind of put me in this place where I liked fantasy and science fiction because of my mom. I started reading when I was really, really young. I read 1 million books in my life. And so I had like an affinity for that type of stuff. And a lot of the people when I was a kid, like Peter Thiel, were bullied for being into that kind of shit. So it was always like, for me, it was always like, I always stood up for people like that because I was like, you know, I always had the mentality of like, you can do that to him. Can you do it to me though? You know, like I was never afraid of getting punched. Like that never concerned me. Pain is just a part of life. And it really just like makes me so sad. Like we used to play D&D, me and two of my friends, my dude Mark, my dude Sean, shout out. Okay. We played D&D in front of these meth motels, these motels where they cook meth and stuff. And we just sit out there with our dice and shit. Oh, we stole all that shit. We didn't have no money. We stole everything. Just 100% honesty. And we play dice out in front of these meth motels. And some of the gangbangers would come by. They think we were playing craps. And they'd be like, oh, y'all playing dice? Y'all playing dice? Oh, what the fuck is this shit? A couple times we almost got some gangsters that actually played D&D. It was pretty funny. They didn't make it past character creation. Can I be a pimp? Yo, what kind of gat I get? I should make a skit. About those fucking dudes. And most of the time they just hang out. Most of the time they hang out and like listen to us be nerds, right? And you're like, y'all better fucking grow a dick, man. You ain't gonna live in this. You guys gonna have to get a gun at one point. But anyways, just to give you an idea of my background, right? So like I defended like all the nerdy kids and shit because I was like try that shit with me, man. Fuck you, you know? And to see the Peter Thiels of the world grow up to be fucking despots, I'm like, man, I should have let y'all get your ass kicked. God damn it. God damn it.
Heinlein. Oh. He was a chess star and the head of the math team. Thiel's good grades and familial wealth earned him a spot at Stanford University
let you get your ass
for
kicked.
Undergrad and law school, where he got into his first venture, an alternative student newspaper aimed at conservatives, the Stanford Review. The publication was Thiel's response to what he perceived as a takeover by the politically correct. It seemed designed to offend, calling the school's sexual assault regulations too strict, excoriating diversity initiatives, and attacking anything that questioned Western culture. The Review was the beginning of Thiel's later network. Many of the students who wrote for or staffed the far-right newspaper would end up as Thiel's future business partners. Stanford is also where Thiel was introduced to philosopher and professor René Girard, who influenced Thiel's worldview. Girard wrote about how humans intently imitate each other, and how that holds society back. He specifically pointed to humans' competitive nature holding back scientific and technological progress. Thiel really connected with this viewpoint, and it fueled his belief that monopolies are actually
all of
a
this
good
shit right
thing.
here.
If you're a startup, you want to get to monopoly.
Exactly, Philip.
You're starting a new company, you want to get to monopoly.
Before graduating, Thiel wrote one last op-ed for the Review, where he...
So once again, that's another hypocritical point of view from MAGA. MAGA consistently talks about free market, and when you have a completely unregulated free market, not the free market we have now, because the free market that we have now is regulated. So it's not a completely free market. So one of the things MAGA argues for is MAGA argues that a completely free market would make America somehow this amazing, incredibly wealthy country, which it already is, but even more, supposedly. So I pointed out multiple times before, in a completely free market that doesn't have antitrust laws, you end up with monopolies. So they'll almost always go, well, no, we like antitrust, which doesn't make sense, because if you have antitrust, then you have regulations. If you have regulations, that's the only way you can have antitrust. So, oh no, monopolies are bad, but it would take care of it. The free market didn't. No, the free market, if you want to be honest, a thought experiment for every person to do is to think about a big corporation that you've worked for. Think about the people that work there. Think about the people that own those companies, and then ask yourself, what is their mentality? Their mentality is Peter Thiel's mentality. It is, one is never good enough. You always want to have two. When you have two, you want to have four. When you want to have four, you want to have 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024. You're just exponentially, constantly going bigger and bigger and bigger, because if you don't recognize, when you get a certain amount of resources, you lose a certain amount of adversity. When you lose a certain amount of adversity, you lose a motivation to do things. So instead, they continue to create things. It's the same thing if you ask Warren Buffett. You say, Warren Buffett, why do you go to work every day? He goes, well, what the fuck else am I going to do? Just sit at home? Drink pina coladas? That sounds good to us, because we're constantly dealing with a massive amount of adversity. That's why the middle class, for the most part, is almost always the class that has the most stableness, right? Because even if you're kind of insane, you have too much shit to do to be completely insane. You're no, I don't have time to be crazy today. I got to pick up my kid for band. Then I got to take up my other kid to soccer. I got to go work in the morning. Still got to cook dinner. You don't have time to be crazy, okay, in the middle class. And that's also why we also have a lot of uneducated voters in the middle class, because they don't have enough time to look into it. But what he just said right there, when you start a business, you should want to be a monopoly. That also applies to the country. So when these guys run the country, they're not saying, let's just rule over America. They want to monopolize the goal. And that's all extremely hypocritical, coming from MAGA people that claimed that they were against a new world order, people that claimed that they were against monopolies, that people that claimed that this was about the people, not about the billionaires. It's all very hypocritical.
The PC alternative to greed
is
not
Bucket?
Personal fulfillment or happiness, but anger at and envy of people who are doing something
trade,
more worthwhile.
Not
so
free market.
What was more
exactly.
worthwhile to Thiel? The money business. Peter joined up with a few young engineers building a new way to send payment digitally. Pretty revolutionary in the late 90s.
So hold on, Christina, though. This is I don't want to take away your win, okay? I feel bad doing this. So this is my thing, Christina, and this is everybody should be aware of this. They can tell Elon Musk that he has to delete things, but we live in a technological world in which anybody thinking that Elon Musk is going to just delete all the information he has doesn't understand technology. There are backups for backups for backups for backups in this world. And Elon Musk will look Letitia James dead off in the face and go, yep, here's the hard drive. It's been wiped. We don't have any more information. Now, I'm not saying, because these guys, like I said before, Elon's not as smart as everybody thinks he is. He's not as smart as people think. I used to defend Elon. I used to think he was smart, and now I've watched way too many things with Elon in it, and I'm like, fuck! Why did I defend this guy? I'm the idiot. Fucking had a little sketch moment there. I want to believe that they will flounder and fuck up, and someone will find a flaw in their plan, and they will be held accountable. But unfortunately, I think whether it's Letitia James or it's Alvin Bragg, whoever it is, whatever other 18 AGs that are doing this, they're doing the right things. I like that they're doing something. But there's got to be a different solution. Because Elon and Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin knew this is what they would do. And that's why they are rampaging through the government. I think he's been through 11 different departments now already in the first 3 weeks, 11 different departments. Because they're trying to get through, steal everything they fucking can information-wise. Hopefully not our money, but at least information-wise. They want to get into every system that they possibly can before the lawsuits come in, because that's how American government works. People do things, we sue against them. If they're good politicians, generally they go, oh, okay, sorry, my bad, yeah, I did some corruption, but I'll stop now. Elon Musk is not a politician. Elon Musk is rampaging through the government, stealing every single thing he can because he knows that they're going to sue him to tell him to stop. We've got to put the brakes on somehow else. We got to figure that shit out.
The company started as Confinity, a play on infinite confidence. It briefly became X.com, as partner Elon Musk insisted, but eventually became PayPal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ruin
Staffing
that. Yeah.
up, Thiel recruited
I think
some
it's a
of his
good
friends
thing,
from
but
Stanford
yeah.
Review. The anarcho-capitalist views of that contingent were essential in the founding of PayPal, he explained at Libertopia 2010.
The initial founding vision was that we were going to use technology to change the whole world and basically overturn the monetary system of the world. We could.
Yeah, and like I said, so when you listen to these guys, you're going to hear things that you say like, oh, actually, you know what? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. But you got to take it into the bigger picture. And that's the problem with most people is people who take snippets and they really like it or they really hate it and they forget, like, you got to look more into it. Everything has nuance. Everything has complexity. And when you get deeper and deeper into this, you recognize that what they actually want to believe is that they want to put themselves in places of power where they're allowed to do whatever the fuck they want, which is going to have the trickle-down effect. And I don't mean like in a good way. I mean, you are going to become their labor force. You are going to become the proletariat. That is 1984. You are going to have a group of people like in Elysium that fucking may figuratively live in the sky, or maybe they actually will live in the sky, just like in Altered Carbon as well, while you end up down on the earth getting just absolutely graped of its resources because they believe that they're, 10 days till Mars. Like, they believe that they can do whatever the fuck they want here to us and this planet because they have the resources to get them off this planet. And technology is moving at an exponential speed. Think about this. Think about where we were in 2025 today, and then think about where we were in 1925, technologically speaking. Just think about the last 20 years. Look up a list of all the things that we didn't have in the year 2000. It's crazy. It's fucking insane to see the amount of things that we didn't have in the last 25 years. If you think, oh, that's stupid because what are they going to do? Go to Mars and just terraform it? What do you think they're going to travel outside the solar system? We have batteries right now. There's a battery that was just created and it has a radioactive isotope in it. It's within a diamond confine and it lasts 5,000 years. That's the half-life of the isotope. 5,000 years. That is the beginning of creating technology, if not even the beginning, I'd say it's probably like the mid of creating technology to have intergalactic travel. Like, that's fucking insane to say, and I know a lot of people are out there like, no, that's not true. That's crazy. Yeah, well, keep on saying that shit. And when they fucking hop in their fucking rocket ship and take the fuck off, I'll be the Nina Turner of the fucking techno-libertarian people. I'll be down here going, I told you guys so. See what happened? But you got to remember, too, every one of these oligarchs are in their 50s and 60s, right? They know they don't have forever to accomplish these things. It's over the next couple decades. Some of them are going to die over the next couple decades. I'll tell you what's going to be really fucking scary for every one of us is the first time one of these fuckers gets like cancer and dies, that's going to just like trigger the rest of these motherfuckers to go into hyperspeed. And we've already talked about accelerationism. Accelerationism is a part of techno libertarianism. Accelerationism is the idea that some of these guys probably do believe that climate change is real. Elon believes climate change is real. But he also believes that we might be at a place where we need to push through climate change, get through the bad shit so we can get back to the good shit. These guys, I guarantee you there's a couple of them that are scared about AI. They're like, it might actually fucking destroy humanity. But they want to find out in the next 20 years. They don't want to die wondering whether or not AI was going to be this insane, life-changing thing that probably could have made them immortal, or if it was going to destroy humanity. They would rather that shit happen today and the entirety of the world be destroyed than it not happen in their lifetime. And they have the resources to make it happen.
Could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
You might think of PayPal today as a harmless mechanism for buying vintage movie posters on eBay, but the real goal was to completely destroy the global order of currency.
Well, we need to take over the world. We can't slow down now.
In a PayPal all-hands meeting in 2001, Thiel told staff, the ability to move money fluidly and the erosion of the nation-state are closely related, as they were building a system to move money fluidly. But just a few months later, Thiel took the money and ran. PayPal went public with an IPO.
We were the first company in the US to file after 9/11.
Shortly after, PayPal sold to eBay. Thiel's 3.7% stake in the company was worth $57 million. What happens when you give a guy who wants to remake the world into one that follows his own twisted political vision $57 million? Well, it's not great. Look at his investment in Patry Friedman, a young Google engineer, pickup artist blogger, amateur model, and grandson of Milton Friedman.
Oh,
which,
Jesus
don't
Christ.
get us started on Milton Friedman.
Yeah.
But Patry had a big idea. Build artificial islands at sea to house lawless libertarian utopias.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel got...
And by the way, this is still something that they believe because they know that dealing with, international law or whatever is way easier. There's way less regulation. This is something... So they're taking this idea and they're moving it planetary. Like I said, this is the problem is that like there's just way too much information for people to ingest, right? So I'm doing this as like a multitask, right? I'm watching these videos with you guys. I have a very good memory, so I generally like take in information, and then once I turn the cameras off, I'm going to start writing stuff down, right? Going through, plugging things into the places that I like, adding, I've got profiles for Thiel, Musk, Vance, Yarvin. So I'm going to plug in the things that I learned into each one of those person's profiles. And then I'm going to, add to the body of the text. I'm going to add to, I haven't really learned anything really about the beginning since then. Maybe, I think he talks more about the beginning here in a minute. But I'm doing a couple things at the same time, right? That's the way I'm going to accomplish being able to learn about this thing and also be productive. For a lot of people, they don't have that amount of time. A lot of people, I mean, especially if you just want to like live a good, happy life where you want to be entertained every once in a while. Like, luckily for me, I find some type of enjoyment in the curiosity of figuring all these things out. So it's actually something that does make me happy. But for other people that maybe this doesn't make them happy, instead they're like watching it because they want to know about this kind of stuff. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe these kind of things like they didn't know about in the first place and they're educating themselves. But it's a portion of time out of their life to be able to do this. This is really hard to keep up with. That's why pure democracy doesn't work. But with that being said, if not enough people are educated to what they're doing, we are going to come out on the short end of the stick because they are committing every moment of their life to achieving these goals. So these things, when he talks about the fact that PayPal did this started before PayPal. This started before the internet. Curtis Yarvin was on, I think he said he was on some type of rudimentary internet forums in the late 80s. That was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, this guy has been planning step by step the things that he wants to do and has created status and connections with people that can accomplish his goals. If not enough of us are educated to what is going on, they are going to steamroll us. So this is why this is important. This is why I can't make you.
Wind of this and offered Friedman $500,000 to quit his job at Google and get started.
Yeah, I've seen the three-body problem.
Thiel truly saw starting new nations as the same as starting companies.
You know, the three-body problem is absolutely amazing in the way that it posits a question that people won't allow themselves to answer. I'm going to spoil the three-body problem for you guys. I'm really sorry. So if, I don't know, fucking put on safety earmuffs right now if you don't want to hear this. It posits the question of climate change. I mean, it does in a different way, so I guess I'm not spoiling it that bad. But it pretty much says to you, if you knew something was going to happen 200 years from now, are you morally responsible to start doing something about it now? And the first season kind of ends with that question being raised, so you don't really get to see it. But if you think about it, you can imagine that where they're going with that is there's multitudes of different opinions as to what you should do about that. And you see them today with climate change. You have people that just won't believe that it's going to happen. That's like your Jesus people, like, oh no, like God's going to take care of us. There's no way he would do that. That they'd only do that if the gays, that's the reason he punished us the first time was he flooded the world because of gays, you know, like that kind of bullshit. Then you would have people that would say, why do I have to live a life of preparation for somebody, 200 years from now? So they just live like it doesn't exist. You would have people that are like really like morally like, what is it? I want to say morally high. Better situated morally, I guess is what I would say. Where they would like be like, no, we need to work on these things. Our kids, our grandkids are going to die from this, and we need to have them prepared for being able to handle it. You have those types of people, and then you have people that are just like, woo, fuck, shoot my guns off, drink some alcohol. I'm gonna live the best life. And they like die 4 years later from alcohol poisoning because they do it too much. But yeah, three body problem is actually a really good TV series. I've heard it's a great book too. It's a Chinese book, right? And also I also asked a lot of other important questions, but that was like the main question that I got out of that one. Usenet forums. Thank you, Philip. That is exactly what it was called. Yep, Usenet forums. This is what you were asking about earlier, the islands. Yeah. They have more money to push a narrative than me and Kyle. Yeah. 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 Me, Kyle, and the Midas Network, we combined don't have like a tenth of the ability to push what they push. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate you saying that. I wouldn't zuck by a compound that is apocalypse survivable. Like that's, I'll be honest with you. If I had more money than God, I'd probably own a zombie apocalypse compound. I'd actually have real zombies. I'll be fucking honest with you guys. I don't know that I have the moral high ground in these conversations. I told you guys I didn't come from a good place. I'm just saying if there was an ability for me to create zombies and like, LARP a zombie apocalypse, I'd probably make that shit happen. Just saying. I don't have the moral high ground in this conversation.
Really? He said it.
Just like there's room for starting new
exactly. Natalie, I'm going to be out there with you.
Existing companies solve all the problems we need to solve. I think there is also, there should also be some room for trying to start new countries, new governments.
But starting...
You hear that? We should be able to start new countries and new governments. This is the person that the MAGA hypocrites claim, like they don't know that they follow him. Okay, this is one thing I say, because Jane said this earlier, and I read it, and I was going to say it, but I forgot about it. Jane said, like the red hats might be crazy, but they're still American citizens. They still want basically the same shit we want. They want to be taken care of. They want to have money. They want to have, feel safe, whatever it is, right? 100% agree with all of that stuff. This is the problem. And this is my problem with MAGA. They're so goddamn brainwashed that they can't even realize the guy that is in charge isn't their president. It's not a joke. The President Elon thing is not a joke. We just read it. Should I read it again? Let's read it one more time. Let's do this one more time. I know you guys are probably like, fucking, we've heard this, dude, but I'm going to keep doing it. Trump himself will not be the brain of this butterfly. He will not be the CEO. He will be the chairman of the board. He will select the CEO, an experienced executive, Elon. This process, which obviously has to be televised, will be complete by his inauguration, at which the transition to the next regime will start immediately. For Trump, being president will be exactly like it was. All the photo ops and more without any papers to sign, decisions to make, etc. The CEO he picks will run the executive branch without any interference from the Congress or courts, probably also taking over state and local governments. Most existing important institutions, public and private, will be shut down and replaced with new and efficient systems. Trump will be monitoring this CEO's performance again on TV and can fire him if need be. This is Curtis Yarvin writing this April 7th, 2022, while Biden was in office 3 years ago. And these are all things that are happening now. This is what they want. They do not recognize that Donald Trump has either conformed to their way of thinking, because God only knows that he doesn't want to be left behind. But so here's my argument with this. I don't think that Donald Trump could be convinced to go along with this if he had to play second fiddle. I don't think you could write that and tell that to Donald Trump and he'd accept it. So in my opinion, Donald Trump is still convinced that he is the main dude. He is the reason everything's happening. He's probably been told, you're going to end up being the greatest president of all time. Like, we're going to change things. We're going to change the American system. America is going to become this world force, the actual world leader. We're going to be, the world is going to be America. And as we're seeing in Gaza right now, we're about to have America East, by the way. Gaza will be America East. I said that like 3 years ago, and now it's happening. These guys have convinced Donald Trump, most likely, that he's still the main character. But there is also a potential chance that Donald Trump is completely conformed to the ideals and accepted that if he doesn't go along with this, he's fucked, just like the rest of us. But the sad part about it is that there are a lot of MAGA Republicans out there. A lot of us have loved ones, significant others. We have friends that became MAGA. And they all become MAGA because what Eminem said. They believe something great is going to happen. It's just like the end of days cults. It's like, no, it's going to happen on May 20th. And then when it doesn't happen, they just convince themselves, oh, that was wrong. It's going to happen on March 30th. And then when that doesn't happen, they just convince themselves that it's going to happen on July 1st. And even worse now, they have the ability to blame the Democrats every time that great thing doesn't happen. It's the perfect brainwashing scenario. It is why MAGA is a cult. So 100%, I do have empathy for those people, but I have a line drawn in the sand that says, if you harm people that I love, even if unintentionally, you are my enemy. I am very sorry, but that is the truth. I will not allow people to harm the people I love. I will not allow people to indirectly take their rights away from them and still call them my friends. That's kind of where I stand on all that.
Countries is difficult.
What if you start over in a new
Project 2025? Yep.
Country with a few $1 billion and build it from the ground up?
We've looked at this. We've looked at all these possibilities. I think the basic challenges are
hello,
that,
darkness,
it's not that easy
friend.
to get the country.
Yeah.
You might have.
I go there every once in a while. Sorry.
You might not want to be stuck with the people you already have. And then actually, the basic infrastructure may actually cost
Dude,
quite a
that
bit
Time
more.
Magazine thing was
we want
amazing.
to do something that works much more incrementally and organically.
Oh, Friedman eventually
We're gonna have to go back because you guys keep bringing up things that I'm like, yeah, that too. MAGA is the new branch Davidians. There is a direct connection between Timothy McVeigh and the Branch Davidians, and once again, you can trace back this line of mental illness through all that stuff. Like I was talking to you guys about Jerry Springer and Timothy McVeigh, Vince McMahon and all those guys. there's also connections where you can plug certain holes with the Branch Davidians, with Timothy McVeigh. You can plug holes in the timeline with these people to make it even a more solid line from those 70s hippies and tech bros to what we have today in MAGA. It's really fucking crazy. I mean, like I said, you feel like a conspiracy theorist when you're looking at all of these things and seeing how they could lead to each thing. So it's very important to try to critically think your way through it and say to yourself, like, some of these things I could be wrong about. 100%. And I need to continue to be open to that because I do not want to become what they are. So, but it is fucking crazy to like look down the line and be like, oh yeah, the Davidians. Oh yeah, the government fucking that up. By the way, that was partially one of the reasons that this whole thing has been created is because the ATF and FBI fucked that up. They did. They did a shit job. And then that, like, the people that came out of that were still fucked up. There was that lady in that documentary that was like, David Koresh had the right to sleep with that 10-year-old. Like, it was like she was out of the cult. He's been dead for like 20 years. And she's still defending him, you know, harming children. Like, that's real cult shit.
Left the Seasteading Institute and Thiel's involvement seemed over. But let's look at the last part of that quote. Do something that works much more incrementally and organically. After giving up on starting a brand new country, Thiel set about refashioning the country he already lived in. This is how Peter Thiel used the venture capital mindset to seize political power. Presumably to the chagrin of Thiel's friends at Libertopia, he immediately got involved with the CIA. His next company was Palantir, a surveillance and data tech outfit, and seed funding came from...
Dude, the amount of hypocrisy I can point out in a 10-minute video is obscene. So once again, here we go. Who do MAGA Republicans idolize? Which is weird. Let's just admit it. It's fucking weird. But who do they idolize? Edward Snowden. The fact that conservatives are talking about Edward Snowden, like I would have talked about Edward Snowden, just fucking 100% proves we live in crazy town, okay? Because they don't. That's the fucking problem. They're like, no, we have common cause. I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. It's not the same. It's not the same. God damn it. Anyways, so yeah, if you ask people in MAGA nowadays, do you think Edward Snowden's a traitor? They go, hell no. He's doing what was right. Like, government's been listening to our conversations. You know about the Patriot Act? Like, yeah, you know, George. Do you know who George Bush is? Do you know what? Yeah, I hate those guys too now. What? I wish we would have had video from 12 years ago so I could fucking show these MAGA supporters, them being like, here's you fucking saying George Bush was fucking amazing and brown people in Iraq need to be punished for their nuclear weapons. This is you. Greta. Not Greta. Sorry, Greta. Ethel. Don't want to bring Greta in this. But they're so hypocritical. They're like the Twitter files, suppression of information, the TSA, the fuck Edward Snowden, Patriot Act, all of these things. And then I'm like, can I show you Peter Thiel? And they're like, yeah, Peter Thiel's cool. I'm like, do you know he owns a government corporation that spies on people? Named after the Lord of the Rings? And they're like, no, he doesn't.
From InQtel,
anyways,
a nonprofit venture capital firm dedicated to funding projects that would be helpful to the CIA. The firm isn't officially run by the CIA.
No, I believe some of those people did, Beetle.
Revolving door of
Beto. So Beto says we have those now, but what about the people who claim they voted for Obama then switched to Trump? I'm telling you, those people are real. They are real. I didn't want to believe that because, like, I like to think of myself as a common sense person. I like to think that I'm pretty good at critical thinking, and, you know, like, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Like, I fall for shit too, obviously. But I like to think that I do a pretty good job. So I thought when people said that they voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, I was like, bullshit. Just like I said, like, you can't be an ex-Bernie bro and be a Trump supporter. I was like, that's bullshit. You never loved Bernie. People broke, dude. People fucking broke. Their brains are not okay. Like, one of like I said, in a 10-minute video, I can point out so much hypocrisy. One of the things that's super crazy is the TDS thing. Oh, you're broken. All you care about is Trump. And I'm not saying that certain people are. Like I said, I make this point over and over in this show. Like, Trump's not the main character. Stop saying everything's about Trump. It's not all about Trump. It's about fucking techno oligarchs stealing our shit while Trump's a fucking shield for them. Like, but the hypocritical part is they're broken. Those people think about Trump more than anybody does. Those people worship Trump. Those people treat him like he's Jesus. They've compared him to Jesus. Like, they're broken. I do actually legit believe that certain left-wing, specifically like progressive types, I mean, you're seeing a little bit of it now. How much you guys want to make a bet? Let's make a bet right now, guys. Let's make a bet right now. Some of the people that were anti-Israel will become MAGA. Because, like I said, the left eats its own. So they'll receive intense criticism from people like myself that say that they should have voted for Kamala and they're at fault for Trump being in office. And that's why I try not to do that. That's why I try to do my best to say the things I say about people like Nina Turner in a way that's like, I wish you would just come back. It's the same reason that even though I give Cenk Uygur a ton of shit, I still have this hope that he won't just join MAGA and make them 37 million subscribers stronger and billions of views stronger. I do hope. But people broke, dude. And they said, what? The vaccines? Like I said, I watched this. I was on the front line. I run a health food store. I watched anti-vax hippies that had gone to gay pride parades that would have defended them tooth and nail. They were out there just like, fucking, that's right, I go to gay pride. Yeah, you're a homophobe. And people would be like, it's not homophobe. I don't like that they have their dicks out. And it'd be like, people don't have their, what are you talking about? That's their freedom. And they'd fucking freak out, lose their shit. I have a personal story. A friend of mine's wife who went from being anti-Monsanto, anti-bigot, hated Trump, and she is a QAnon person now. People broke because something that was very important to their narrative, very central to their reality, for a lot of these people was vaccines. A lot of left-wing, liberal, health food people were anti-vaccine. They'd literally go and get fake, what is it? When you it's like it excuses you. I can't remember what it's called. Exemptions. They get fake exemptions from doctors so their kids didn't have to go to public schools because public schools required vaccines. So they'd say like they're allergic to something or there's different exemptions, religious exemptions as well. These are all left-wing people. And they, after COVID, because they saw it as being a mandate, which is a falsehood, is misinformation, the right convinced them that the government was mandating COVID vaccines. Now, Joe Biden did try to establish a COVID vaccine mandate in the federal government, but it was shot down by judges. But anywhere else in the country, it wasn't mandated. It was recommended. Being a person who worked in a business in California, a place that like is one of the most intense about these things, there are plenty of businesses. We didn't question people's vaccination status. We made people wear their masks, but that was our personal choice. It was a private business choice to make people wear masks while within the store. There's hippie stores right up the street from us that did not require masks. There's never a mandate. That is a falsehood and it's misinformation, and it worked because tons of people now believe that there was a vaccine mandate, and that made these left-wing hippies go, holy shit, they're going to do this thing to me that I don't want. I believe in my head does all these bad things. They believe it causes autism. They believe it's heavy metals that are going to like fuck up your body. All these things. So you got to realize when they were told that they were going to have to do that, even though they were never told that broke them. And now they're Trump supporters because they believe he's the ultimate freedom. They believe like he's the closest thing to libertarianism there is. So when you say like, what about the Obama supporters that became Trump supporters? I believe that they are. I believe. I do. I do believe they went over. It broke them.
Of staff between the two.
Well, they're really broke now. Benny, you are correct.
Referred to as the CIA's private equity firm. Palantir eventually did help the CIA, and the FBI, and the CDC, and a host of other governmental organizations that would have gotten Thiel booed right out of Libertopia. But
Cenk says to punch a Nazi, but we can have a beer together afterwards.
Capitalist utopia. Because he was
who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl, Boris? Come on!
Thiel exploited systems within the existing libertarian but only for billionaires system, like his tax trick.
Whole damn team sick right now, too.
In 2021 that much of Thiel's wealth is held in a Roth IRA, a type of tax-free investment fund meant for retirement.
Meant for the
amount you're allowed to contribute
for poor people.
is capped at a few $1,000s
for middle-class people.
But in 1999, Thiel turned $2,000 he had in his account into PayPal stock, an investment which paid off. When Thiel was the first large investor in Facebook, that $500,000 angel investment, immortalized by this guy who looks nothing like Thiel in The Social Network, was just a restructuring of his tax-free retirement fund. He can eventually withdraw the over $5 billion in the account tax-free. The average IRA has 0.0000008% of that. Thiel's Libertopia friends have to pay high taxes, but Thiel won't on a large portion of his wealth. Then there's litigation financing. The ultra-rich can actually gamble on court cases. They fund legal fees for a lawsuit, then take a percentage of the winnings if they pick the right side. It's completely legal, and Thiel used it to silence free speech. After Gawker, an online news and blogging outlet, outed Thiel as gay, he set his eyes on destroying them.
Yeah, and he used Hulk Hogan's sex tape to do it. Like I said, the hypocrisy is crazy. It's like you shouldn't do all these things, and then they do every one of them. It's like, holy fuck, like, could you guys not do a couple of them? Like, bat like 6 for 10, maybe? Like, why do you guys have to do everything you guys say that other people shouldn't do?
When Gawker posted a shadily acquired sex tape of wrestler Hulk Hogan, Thiel bankrolled Hogan's lawsuit against the publication. Gawker was bankrupted, and Thiel made a profit.
Jay Rome just said about his aunt.
Thiel uses his inordinate wealth and investment principles to get richer, to destroy the free speech of others, and to live in his own libertarian paradise. Another big investment.
Cenk Uygur has been attacked by the right and also the left. Ever hear of atheism is unstoppable? AIU, Davion Tracy. He's a person who voted to Harris Clinton that cozy to MAGA. No, I have not. I have Bubba Love Sponge, Nelly. Bubba Love Sponge. No, I have not heard of those guys. I'll check them out. And yeah, here's my thing with Cenk. And once again, you guys will call me a dirty centrist for this take. I don't think Cenk is as politically educated as he thinks he is. I think Cenk is from the era of that Vice journalist that I was just talking about that like had his mind blown by Destiny, that Destiny knew stuff about things. I think that Cenk has a huge ego, that he wants to still be involved. I think that Cenk got his ego hurt when no one voted for him for president. And I think he tried to pull this twist, and I know it, I've seen it before, this centrism twist of like, you know, the left needs to call themselves out more, which is ridiculous because Cenk himself calls out the left constantly. Like, this idea that the left needs to call itself out more, needs to criticize itself more. After Joe Biden lost that debate, which I was very sad. I was so pumped. I was like, Joe, we gonna win this, Joe. We gonna win this so hard right now. And then Joe had a cold or some other shit, and he's like 97 years old, and we all just watched that shit. It was bad. Anyways. Where the downfall happened. Anyways, there was nonstop criticism for like 2 months on every channel MSNBC, CNN. I think I even got up here and was like, I love Joe, but hey, Joe, can we talk, dog? I still support you. You're still getting shit done, but hey, man. The left doesn't need more critics. The left's main problem is that the left criticizes each other so much that they can never get together and solidify. We all hate each other for like minor points of difference, while, like I said, on the right, you have people that are like, oh, this person essayed this person, and they're like, that's some left-wing rhetoric. Like, on the other side, the right is like, the left doesn't criticize itself at all, and the left is like, we need to start criticizing ourselves more. Did you hear what the right said? The right said we don't criticize ourselves enough. We have to be better than them. We have to. We can't do this. Start criticizing people on our side. Like, it's like two completely fucked up different mentalities. The right just like ignores any criticism at all, and the left just like fucking hyperventilates and creates more criticism out of like criticism that shouldn't exist, right? So my whole thing with Jank is that he's trying something that has been tried a million times before, and he needs to stop. I think Anna actually has fucking flown off the lid and is gone. I think Jank, I just want the left to become sane again. And, well, I don't know if we're ever sane. I like the left to find some continuity and stop. Like, that's why you guys have seen me. You guys have seen me shit on Jank. I find his opinions disgusting and idiotic. And I think the shit that he's doing is basic level moronity. But at the same time, I also recognize that it's the largest progressive platform in the United States of America. And losing the voice of, I guess you could hope that Isla I saw Francesca left. I guess if it split off, it wouldn't be bad because at least most of those people would still be good. That's my hope.
Area is in ideas. Pretty chilling
That's
ones.
my hope.
Let's look at the Dark Enlightenment movement, which Courts calls
Alan,
an obscure
did I say hi, Alan?
neo-fascist philosophy,
I'm pretty sure I said
and
hi,
media
Alan,
researcher David Columbia calls the worship of corporate power to the extent that
I
corporate
can never
power
go MAGA.
becomes the only
Make
power
the left
in the
sane
world.
again.
One of the movement's loudest voices is blogger Curtis Yarvin. Thiel has...
Here we go, Curtis Yarvin, guys. Curtis Yarvin. The main character has entered the building. I'm telling you. Stop thinking it's Trump. Curtis Yarvin, and he's not even the CEO. Curtis Yarvin is like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Curtis Yarvin is the guy that sits on the side of the throne that people realize he has a lot of power, but they don't realize exactly how much power he has. We got to get to that Curtis Yarvin interview because you guys got to see it. He both doesn't deserve the amount of recognition that he gets and also doesn't get enough recognition for what he deserves. Like, he's not, in my opinion, as intelligent in certain areas as I think people think he is. I think he's very intelligent as a mathematician. He has bona fides to prove that. But on the other end, I think people kind of think, oh, who the fuck is this guy? I barely know who this isn't Kanye. Like, I barely know who this guy is. This isn't Taylor Swift. Who is this guy? Like, oh, that's the guy you should fucking be scared of. That's Littlefinger on the side of the fucking throne. You that foreign person coming over to make trade with the kingdom to create contracts, and that guy's watching the whole thing? No, he's not watching. He's in charge. The king's just there to sign the fucking document.
Has invested heavily in Yarvin startups, basically funding a big portion of the Dark Enlightenment movement. And it's obvious the movement mirrors Thiel's beliefs. Complete corporate control. And two of his assets, long-term investments he's been nurturing for years, could help
say
that
hurtful
goal.
Things like that.
2022 Senate candidates JD Vance and Blake Masters. Both of them worked for Thiel firms, and he's been bolstering their careers this whole time, supporting their projects along the way. Vance and Masters are long-term Thiel investments.
As an investor entrepreneur, I've always tried to be contrarian, to go against the crowd, to identify opportunities that in places where people were not looking.
And they're just two of the far-right candidates Thiel invested in 2022. He's been donating bids for years in order to further his political goal, a corporate-ruled utopia for billionaires. He's also investing in tech companies that will help.
Yeah, another, I think I said it earlier, but you guys should check it out. Anti-Social Network. If you guys want to like legit see how 4chan won the election for Donald Trump, you should watch the Anti-Social Network on Netflix. It goes into how like and I hate this because I'm a person that grew up loving like the anonymous type, the anonymous hackers group, but a big reason that shit's as fucked up as it is right now can be laid squarely at the feet of Anonymous. And, you know, they've made attempts to do better things since then, for sure. But, you know, they participated in that culture, that 4chan culture that created all those conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton. Like, they straight up said it. They were like, yeah, we lied about Hillary Clinton, and people bought that shit. It was fucking amazing. This is why I don't argue with MAGA anymore, is because everything is right there in your face. People like literally saying that they created conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton. And they're like, still true. Still true. Like, no, the person's telling you they lied to you. They're telling you that they lied to you and got you to elect Donald Trump. And they didn't even do it because they liked Donald Trump. They did it because they thought it was funny. That's so fucking sad.
Help his dark political project, like Rumble, a free speech-focused social network populated almost entirely by the far right.
Yeah, that's true.
So if Thiel is treating politics like investing,
later,
what
Pep.
can his
Have a good
investment
stream.
strategies teach us about what's
I'll stop
to
in
come?
if I got a minute.
Well, the guy loves monopolies.
I have a single idée fixe that I'm completely obsessed with on the business side, which is that if you're starting a company, if you're the founder, entrepreneur starting a company, you always want to aim for monopoly, and you want to always avoid competition. And so, hence, competition is for losers. Something.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? They just say it straight to your face.
We'll be talking about today.
What does it mean when a nation is ruled by a monopoly? One single all-powerful entity? Well, let's just say it's not a democracy.
There should also be some room for trying to start new countries.
And that country would have a complete lack of accountability for the ultra-rich.
Get rid of government regulation of technology. Allow us to build nuclear power. Allow us to, go into space, have supersonic planes again.
Like I said, they're going to say things. They're going to say things that make you go, well, yeah, that doesn't sound so bad. That's not terrible, Because, so there's no grift that doesn't have bait. There's never going to be a time where a scam is so bad that there's no come on, And it's so trippy to me that people, they don't realize that. Like, that they're like, yeah, of course you're going to agree with some of this stuff that they say. They're not going to just pile on a bunch of bad shit and then you're going to agree to it. That's not until we're actually living the nationalist life. That's when they come down with the batons and the guns and tell you better do it or you don't get to eat. That's when that's not how it starts.
Allow us to get rid of the FDA.
Peter Thiel doesn't need to build an island to have his libertarian dreamland. He can build it right here in America. And he already is. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be covering...
All right, where are we at? How far in are we? I think I want to watch this. Okay, so we said we're going to watch the Curtis Jarvin one, so we're going to watch it. Okay? We're going to watch it because... What was it? What I forgot. Was it New York Times? I think it's New York Times. Yeah. So this is Curtis Yarvin, and this is a really trippy interview because it starts out a lot more congenial than I was expecting, but eventually this reporter starts pushing back at him, and it really shows the flaws in the mentality that this guy is a super intellectual. This reporter does a great job.
For years.
Okay, so here we go. I'll push that button there. Oh, okay. Gotta walk the dog. Enjoy your walk. Enjoy your walk. What's happening, Max Left? Nightbot actually did something. Nightbot's kind of a dick. Today we're going to teach Pluto how to fly, yet someone will believe it's true. Exactly. Yeah. I heard that Jacob guy and his partner did all those failed stunts and flat out lied. I don't remember that guy, but that doesn't like surprise me. That is so some of these articles I have up in the background here are articles that people should read. This is How America Lost Its Mind. And it goes into talking about how a lot of what the right wing believes today started with the left wing in the 70s. Once again, that's going to make some people in the chat mad. No, we didn't. The hippies didn't do it. Yeah, the hippies did it. Sorry, guys. The hippies did it. Because the hippies were the original, like, you can't tell me what to believe, bro. You know, man, you don't know what's real. I do. You know, like, because I love my hippies. I love my hippies. But my hippies also like to, you don't even know, dude. Aliens built the pyramids, bro. Okay? That's back when we could all be friends. That was when it was fun. Okay? Those were good times. But back in those times, that's when people started this idea of reality is not what it is, but what I perceive it to be. And the right wing, over time, co-opted that mentality. And we all remember a few years ago when Rudy Giuliani said, sure, you have your facts, but we have our facts. We have alternative facts. That comes from those left-wing hippies in the 70s. And this article from The Atlantic, I'll post it. You do have to have, okay, look, everybody knows I'm fine with weed. I smoked for 20 years, okay? I smoked for 20 years, all right? I just can't anymore. I'm fine with weed, but, okay, like, you gotta remember, it does have effects. It does have effects, guys. All right? Like, after smoking for 20 years, I look back at me, like, some of the dumb shit I said while high, and I'm like, oh, fuck. This actually makes me better at my job. As I almost reach into the fucking fryer oil. It was a fun time, though. It was a good time. Just so you guys know, I'm all for legalizing drugs, so I'm just saying. Sometimes when you hit that joint and you're like, I'm about to drop some knowledge on you. Sometimes that's just not true. Okay. Yeah, nah, for sure. Everybody I know smokes. Everybody I know still smokes, dude. But, like, my buddies they're like, it cures cancer. No, man. It's for medical reasons. I'm like, bro, we just getting high because we like it, okay? We get high because we like it. I can't smoke anymore, okay? I just can't. It just doesn't work for me anymore. It does bad shit to me. I remember now his name was Jacob Wall, and he had his partner did the Vogue story on Kamala Harris and on Elizabeth Warren. No, I don't remember that. I will have to check that out. Yeah, Uncle Fatty's here. He'll tell you. Without cannabis, I'd never be a pleasant person. That's hilarious. You guys crack me up. Like I said, I'm all for legalization. I'm just saying, it's the same thing as like when I'm drinking some tequila and I'm getting down. That's why I don't drink on stream, right? Like I don't drink on stream because I know I might think that I have superpowers while drinking a bottle of tequila. The reality is my IQ dropped about 74 points and I only had like 6 to spare. Okay? I am in a IQ deficit at that point, yet I am in a confidence overload when I have had too much tequila. Anyways, this is a really good article. You do need to have an account with the, you have to have an account with the Atlantic to read it. So Sorry if you don't have one, but if you don't, this is a really old article. This is why I'm linking this to you guys. Like, this is from 8 years ago, 2017, pre-COVID, guys, pre-COVID. 2017 is when this article came out, and it goes into details talking about that stuff. Something that I think it was Manny, right? Manny, you're the one who's talking about. Manny's talking about with the lies thing. That also comes from the anti-social net. It also comes from 4chan. They intentionally created a atmosphere where you could make jokes. You could make jokes about things that turned out to be true. So if you think about all the people when we say, Donald Trump said that he's going to put a resort in Gaza, and people go, shut up, you libs. You libs are always crying, exaggerating. Trump's making jokes, dude. It's just because it's funny. And then later, when he says, I'm going to put a resort in Gaza, they're like, yeah, it makes sense. That is a atmosphere that the 4chan crowd created by creating this triggered. The whole, like, you guys are getting triggered thing, right? And now it's used even more prevalently because they openly do it. Somebody brought up JD Vance talking about the fact that he lied about the Haitians in Ohio. And he said, you know, like, yeah, we made that stuff up, but we were bringing light to a bigger problem. I'm telling you, you can go down the line. Look at all of these things and you can see where the things that broke our society came from, and a lot of them are from degeneracy. And when I say degeneracy, I mean like people doing shit. I'm not tying this to the weed, just so you guys know. Don't go there, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just waiting for the first comment to come through and be like, that's not weed. And I'll be like, that's not what I'm talking about. Somebody always gets me wrong. Always at least one person gets me wrong. I'm saying the degeneracy of like white nationalism. In that video, they talk about how it started as like anime and memes and people just having a good time and getting together. And then like at one point, the 4chan conventions, I forgot what they're called, otaku or something like that. No, that's something different. But they would get together and this girl was like, it wasn't like just like a couple people. She was like 60% of the convention would be throwing up Heil Hitlers. So now we have Elon, right? Who's a 4chan guy who throws up a Heil Hitler. And we see that shit and we go, yo, what the fuck? And everybody goes, oh, you guys are just triggered libs. You guys don't even understand. He's just joking. Even if he did it, he's just joking. That's from the 4chan shit. So they had that, and they had people like openly talking about graping people at the conventions, and it created this like degeneracy that became, they were anonymous, not the hackers, but people. The people were anonymous, and it allowed them to finally feel like what it's like to not have repercussions for themselves, and they want more. If you look at these guys that Elon Musk has working for him in the Doge thing, all of those people are like 4chan type dudes. They're all people that are lifers on the internet on these forums. It's like I said, there are direct connections to every single one of these things. Every one of them. Pretty quickly, everyone knew the Haitian immigrant stories were lies. No one cared. That's what I mean, Philip. That's what I'm saying. No one cared. I can't read that out loud, Paul. I will get in trouble. Yeah, no, I'm not saying the people who are otaku. I'm saying that it started as an otaku movie. It started as 2chan in Japan, became 4chan, eventually became 8chan. But yeah, it like otaku means something else. I forgot what the convention's called. But what Philip said, you don't have to you don't have to admit. You just go like, oh, there's all jokes, dude. There's all jokes. Ah. Oh, wait, we did it for real? Yeah, no, we told you we were going to do it. Like, that's how they do their thing now. Anyways, that's a really good Atlantic article. Also, or did I link the right one? No, I didn't. Ah, shit. Which one is this? Oh, no, it was. I think I just have it up twice. Okay. That's how America lost its mind. This, I'm going to give you all these links, guys. This is how Hitler dismantled the government in the first 53 days. And then we're going to watch the Curtis Yarvin interview, and then we're probably going to call it a night. That is the how Hitler dismantled democracy in 53 days. And this is not, you do not need to have an account for this. Every one of you should bookmark this post. Every single person should bookmark this post. This is Curtis Yarvin's Substack that he wrote in 2022, where he describes exactly what they're going to have Trump do 3 years ago. Every single person should click that link and bookmark it on your computer or your phone, whatever the fuck you have, because this is very important. And if you're like me, I'm actually going to spend some money on Curtis Yarvin. I'm going to pay Curtis Yarvin some money because I'm going to subscribe so I can see the rest of this article and the other articles that he posts. That is what I'm going to do. I'm not asking you guys to do that, but I want to keep tabs on this kind of stuff because, as I said before, I was talking about this well before all these other people are talking about it. And now that more people are interested in it and people are wanting to know things about it, I want to be as up to date on all these things as I possibly can. So I'm going to actually join a Substack, which is probably going to get me put on a list, which would probably going to lead me to actually being gulagged. So we're probably not going to watch the entirety. This is a very long video. We're not going to probably watch the entirety of this, and I'll link it at the end for you guys to check out, okay? So here we go. $89 a year? Yeah, for Atlantic? Yeah, I bought it. I like it.
Curtis Yarvin had been writing online about political theory and relative obscurity. His ideas were pretty extreme.
I'm going to go grab a drink real quick.
Institutions at the heart of American intellectual life, like the mainstream media and academia, need to be dissolved. He also believes that government bureaucracy should be radically gutted, and that American democracy should be replaced by what he calls a monarchy run by a CEO.
Monarch is good. It's a neutral term.
But while Yarvin himself may still be obscure, his ideas are not. Vice President-elect JD Vance has alluded to his notions of forcibly ridding American institutions of so-called wokeism. And Yarvin has also found fans in the most powerful and increasingly political ranks of Silicon Valley, like Mark Andreessen, the venture capitalist turned informal advisor to President-elect Trump.
We are living under FDR's personal monarchy.
Peter Thiel, a Republican megadonor, has called him a powerful historian. On top of it all, Yarvin has become a fixture of the right-wing podcast universe. He's been a guest on the shows of Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, among others.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Tucker.
I've been aware of Yarvin for years, but always thought of his work as pretty fringe. A lot of what Yarvin has to say is disturbing, and the historical evidence he justifies it with is riddled with exaggeration, distortion, and sometimes just plain inaccuracy. But given that his ideas are now finding an audience with some of the most powerful people in the country, Yarvin can't be so easily dismissed anymore.
When you say to a New York Times reader, democracy is bad, they're a little bit shocked. But when you say to them, politics is bad, or even populism is bad, they're like, of course, these are horrible things.
I'm David Marchese, and here's my conversation with writer Curtis Yarvin. To my understanding, one of your central arguments is that, America needs to, I think the way you've put it in the past, is sort of get over our dictator phobia. That American democracy is a sham, beyond fixing, and having sort of a monarch-style leader, or call it a CEO, or call it a dictator, that's the way to go. So why is democracy so bad, and why would having a dictator solve the problem?
Let me answer that in, I think, a way that will be relatively accessible to readers of the New York Times. You've probably heard of a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yes.
And I do a speech sometimes where I'll just read the last 10 paragraphs of FDR's first inaugural address, in which FDR essentially says to the American people, hey, Congress, give me absolute power or I'll take it anyway. So, did FDR absolutely actually take that level of power? Yeah, he did. And so there's a great piece that I've sent to, some of the people that I know that are involved in the transition. There's all sorts of people milling around.
Name one.
There. Name one. Wow. Name one. Well, I definitely know Mark Andreessen, and so I sent this piece to Mark Andreessen, and it's an excerpt from the diary of Harold Ickes, who's FDR's Secretary of the Interior. And it's a little diary entry describing a cabinet meeting in 1933. And what happens in this cabinet meeting is that Francis Perkins, who's the Secretary of Labor, comes in to this meeting.
Just in time.
And is like, here, I have a list of the projects that we're going to do. FDR personally takes this list, looks at the projects in New York, and is like, this is crap, aren't you doing? Like, humiliates Francis Perkins in the Oval Office or wherever they're having.
So like I said, you got to keep something in mind while watching this. He's selling this to you. The only reason that people like this come on to these types of interviews, Trump included. Think about Trump, right? Well, Trump's actually pretty bad at it. Okay, think about Trump in an interview where he talks to somebody that is appealing to the left. And then think about what Trump says at his rallies. Think about the sharks versus electric batteries when he's talking to his rallies. And then think about what he tries to do when he's talking to somebody that isn't pushing back against him on like CNN or something like that, right? That's what Curtis Yarvin is doing in this interview. And when we get to the point where the reporter starts pushing back against him, you're going to start to see him start to buckle. I also want to point out Curtis Yarvin wearing the same leather jacket that he was in the first picture I showed when he was like 20, okay? That is obviously the same leather jacket. Curtis Yarvin either really, really likes that jacket or he is not doing well financially.
Having your cabinet meeting. And then at the end of the thing, it's like everybody agrees that the bill will be fixed and then passed through Congress. This is just a picture of FDR acting like a CEO. And so, the question of, was FDR a dictator? What does it mean to be a dictator? What does this pejorative word mean? I don't know. What I know is that Americans of all stripes, Democrats, Republicans, and everyone, except for a few right-wing Republicans, basically revere FDR. And FDR ran the New Deal like a startup.
So, as I understand it, the point you're trying to make is that we have had something like a dictator in the past in American history, and therefore it's not something.
Okay, so did he say his quote? His quote is, America needs to get over its fear of dictatorship. That's fucking crazy. That's insane.
Be afraid of now? Is that?
Yeah,
right?
what we see in the sort of the course of, to kind of look at the objective reality of power in the U.S. since the revolution. You'll talk to people about the Articles of Confederation, and you're just like, name one thing that happened in America under the Articles of Confederation.
It was like 2 years.
Unless they're a professional historian. Next, you have the first constitutional period with
wasn't it like
George
76
Washington.
to 78?
If you look at the administration of Washington, what you'll see is that basically what is established looks a lot like a startup. It looks so much like a startup that this guy, Alexander Hamilton, who is recognizably a startup bro, is running the whole government.
You can see the reporters
having the Larry Page of this republic. He's nominally the secretary.
I have to say, I feel like I'm asking you, what did you have for breakfast? And you're saying, well, at the dawn of man, when cereals were first cultivated.
I'm doing a Putin. I'll speed this up.
And then answer the question, what's so bad about democracy?
All right. To make a long story short, whether you want to call Washington, Lincoln, and FDR dictators, this sort of, opprobrious word.
So, and one thing he's doing here is he's referring to pure democracy when he talks about democracy. This is something from Aristotle. I talk about Aristotle all the time. Aristotle did not like pure democracy, and for good reasons, because you get a Trump type of candidate, somebody that's really charismatic, and when everybody has a vote on something, especially in societies like today where we're overstimulated and undereducated, you end up with people that don't know what they're voting for, voting on vibes or emotions or being manipulated with misinformation. So pure democracy indeed is not good, but we don't operate in a pure democracy. He's not, okay, so he's advocating for the overthrow of pure democracy, but we do not actually currently participate in a pure democracy. We participate in the type of democracy that, in my opinion, and this is obviously a reach, but I am speaking for Aristotle here. I believe Aristotle, this is exactly what Aristotle was talking about when he talked about polity. And that was a representative democracy where you elect people and then you use the aristocracy, which would be like, as I said earlier, OSHA. OSHA is a great example. So if you allowed everybody to vote on every regulation that is ever written by people in OSHA or the FCC or these other non-government entities that are part of the government through like a third-party thing, right? If you were to allow them to be voted on, you'd never have anything passed, or you would end up with a bunch of like weird, like cumbersome, clunky rules that all kind of conflict with each other. So instead, what we do is we vote for our representatives. Those representatives are supposed to vote for our ideals, and when they don't, we're supposed to vote them out. Now, they are supposed to then also create these not companies or corporations, they're these people that then are experts. So the Chevron doctrine that just got overturned last year was huge because it took away the ability for experts in their fields to create these regulations and push them back to like judges and other people that have no idea what they're talking about. So just because you're a judge doesn't mean that you know anything about like the environmental impact of a certain chemical going into our water. So instead we have the EPA, and the EPA says, hey, we've seen that this certain chemical creates cancer in people. So we're going to either add a warning or we're just going to outright outlaw it, right? So his point of view is that these people have too much power. But that's actually what Aristotle wanted. He thought the aristocracy should be in charge of these types of things. And he thought that we should have a group of people that we vote for that then vote for things that we would want, and we should be in control of that. So once again, when he's saying these things, if you don't understand the background of the information that he's trying to give you, you think that the things he's saying sound okay. But if you know anything about the background information, you can recognize where he's full of shit.
What they were was basically national CEOs. And they were running the government like a company from the top down.
That's what we're talking about when we're talking about representatives.
So it's not even that democracy is bad. It's just that it's very weak.
Is that really up in the
fact that
Supreme
it's
Court
very
right now?
weak is basically easily seen by the fact that very
$2.
unpopular
Thank you, buddy.
policies
Appreciate
like
seeing
mass
ya.
immigration
Later to ya.
persist despite strong majorities being against them. So the question of
I
basically
gotta answer this question. When you got out of the hood, did you also notice people who talk smack have never been hit in the face? I did when I let them out. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. Natalie, do you know how hard it is for me to exist in the culture that I have to exist in? Like, people, when I first moved here, legitimately so thought I was an asshole. Legitimately, I was being an asshole. But it's because where I come from, no one calls the cops, okay? MAGA supporters, I don't call cops. I protect my house with a gun. Sure you do. Sure you do, buddy. Where I come from, yeah, like, I've always told my kids, I'm like, you should never be scared of the person that's, like, talking shit. You should be scared of the person that's sitting there taking it and looking at you like they're about to punch you in the face, because they are. Like, that's something that, like, society has not been hit in the face enough, okay? I grew up knowing that if I said something, I damn well better believe that shit, because there was repercussions if I was being offensive, being an asshole to somebody, and I couldn't back it up. 100%, Natalie. It changed so much about me as a human being coming from where I come from to participate in the culture that I do, and I still have a lot of the tics of being that person. And I mean, even just recently, the way I manage people, I'm very straightforward. I'm very honest, you know? And like, I kind of try to make sure that people understand, like, the reason I'm doing it is because I want them to do well. I want them to benefit, and I'm not going to accept the bullshit, right? But that doesn't always work well in like a professional environment. So people that are used to being talked to in a certain way, I don't always talk to them that way. I talk to them like they are my equal. I've always had a problem with jobs where I can't be a everyday worker because I'm used to challenging people. I'm used to being able to say, like, I think you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you you're wrong. And if you don't like it, well, let's do something about it, you know? And that doesn't work in society now. And I do think that that's part of one of the problems with our society is that we don't have enough repercussions for
not
some
even that
things.
Democracy is bad. It's just that it's very weak. And the fact that it's very weak is basically easily seen by the fact that very unpopular policies like mass immigration persist.
21st century suffragettes? Dude, I can never say your guys' name. That's my trailer park education. Suffragettes is too big of a word. 21st century suffragettes in the chat. Yeah, you guys better check them out. Check out 21st century suffragettes, because Diane's a dope human being, period. Forget the political stuff. All right. That's on point as well. But also on a human level, like Diane and all those people over there, they're all super cool people, man. Like, there's not a lot of communities in YouTube like mine. And 21st century suffragettes 100% has a dope ass community. And that's because they have dope ass people that are leading it. And then they got good politics too. So you guys should definitely check those guys out. Anytime, you guys can always drop your link in my chat. Always drop your link in my chat.
Against them. So the question of basically, is democracy good or bad, is, I think, a secondary question to, is it what we actually have? When you say to a New York
every day of the week,
reader, democracy is bad, they're a little bit shocked. But when you say to them, politics is bad, or even populism is bad, they're like, of course, these are horrible things. And so the thing is, when you basically want to be say democracy is not a good system of government, just bridge that immediately to saying populism is not a good system of government. And then you'll be like, yes, of course, like actually, policy and,
So this is why that he doesn't legitimately support Donald Trump. It's because Donald Trump is a populist president, and he knows that. And in that article I linked to you guys that he wrote on his Substack, the very first beginning of it is him shitting on Donald Trump. He doesn't like Donald Trump. They're just using Donald Trump. And this shit's about to come to a head because Vought just got confirmed. I think he got confirmed. Or did he just get pushed through the Senate process? I can't remember. I think he just got confirmed. You have two competing factions, and this is something that I'm actually pretty goddamn excited about because they could potentially eat their own. Because in tyranny or dictatorship, Aristotle believed that tyranny and dictatorship does not last for very long because you always have like vying competitive ideologies that all want to have power. So I actually believe that Vought represents 2025, Project 2025, which is the idea of like a completely religious society, a society where LGBT people don't exist. You guys know what I'm saying when I say that. It's a society that's ruled by, like kind of Handmaid's Tale type of shit. That is not what the tech oligarchs want. The tech oligarchs don't want to be told what to do, okay? They don't want people telling them they have to be religious. Tech oligarchs aren't religious. Most of these guys are some form of atheism or something different, probably even like secular humanism. Their ideology, though also bad, completely conflicts with the Project 2025 ideology, and I hope to God that they eat each other. Because if they don't eat each other and they combine powers, having like an Elysium-style Handmaid's Tale is even fucking weirder. So let's hope that they don't find any common cause. And then, so you add a third element into this. So you have Project 2025, you have Techno Oligarchy, and then you have Donald Trump in the middle of all of that. My prediction is that it will eat itself. I don't think that these guys can exist. And unfortunately, well, I don't know. It depends on how you think about it. But the most likely outcome for any of these factions to win is going to be the techno oligarchs. They have all the resources. They've used their manipulation to a point that even Trump can't see that they're manipulating him, or he might even be on board with it. But they have the most influence and power. I think that if anybody wins out of all of this, it's going to be them. But my hope is that this fucking monstrosity of crazy ideologies, Trump and his moronism, Project 2025 and their religiosism, and the techno oligarchs and their belief in techno libertarianism, my hope is that it all fights each other. It becomes completely chaotic. It's a tough 4 years. Americans wisen up and see exactly what happened and take back power. That's my hope.
And law should be set by wise experts and people in the courts and lawyers and professors and so forth. Then
no, he doesn't believe that it'll benefit humanity. That's just what he says.
Is aristocracy rather than democracy.
Your ideas are ones that have been pointed to by people in real positions of power in the Republican Party. I think it's probably overstated the extent to which you and JD Vance are friends, but he has
definitely overstated.
He has mentioned you by name.
That's like a weird laugh from him when he's like, "It's definitely overstated." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus."
Publicly and referred to sort of de-wokeification ideas that sort of are very similar to yours. You've been on Michael Anton's podcast, and Michael Anton has been sort of tapped by Trump to be high up in the State Department, talking with him about how to install an American Caesar. Peter Thiel, a major Republican donor, has said, you're an interesting thinker. And so let's say people in actual positions of power said to you, Curtis, we're going to do the Curtis Yarvin thing. What are the steps that they would take to change American democracy into something like a monarchy?
My honest answer would have to be, it's not exactly time for that yet. Because what I see happening in D.C. right now, nobody should be watching this.
So it's not exactly time for that. That's really important. Because I just said this, everything that Elon is doing right now is just prep work. He knows he's going to get sued. He knows that the American government, the way the system works, is through checks and balances, where when they do something they're not supposed to, the lawyers like Letitia James and the other attorney generals, they all sue to stop him from doing it. Right now, what he is doing is he is gathering information. And he just gathered a boatload of incredibly important information. The worth of the information that Elon is going to get from this administration is well worth them not taking over right away. And to be honest, it's the same thing with Project 2025. They don't believe that they can immediately change America. They just want to start the prep work for it. And that's why our democracy is so important being what it is. We flip from one side to the other over and over again because it creates a type of balance where one side doesn't get too far into it. And right now, they're all recognizing with technology going where it is, with AI, with the global economy, all of these things, that it is ripe for somebody to take the reins and begin the process of building. And this is why it was such a goddamn letdown that Kamala didn't win. Because if people would have voted for Kamala, we would be on our way to a progressive society. We'd be on our way to universal health care. I know there's a lot of people that are on the left right now. Bullshit. We've heard that before. We have never had a time that is as ripe for change as we do today. And we lost our chance. We fucked up. Because we would have probably had some pretty tough times over the next 4 years dealing with quite possibly even a civil war. But if we could have came out on the other end of that, I 100% believe I 100% believe, people did not understand how progressive a candidate Kamala was. Anybody that disagrees with me on that, please actually fucking go read about Kamala Harris. Read about the things she did when she was a senator. Read about the things that she did when she was a district attorney. Stop believing all the bullshit that you've been told to believe because you watch TV too much. Go read about what Kamala Harris did. She was an incredibly progressive candidate. Joe Biden was more progressive than anybody thought he was going to be, and she was even more progressive than him. So we missed our chance. But right now what they're doing is the prep work to build for the government that they want to create. Like I said, right under Trump's nose.
Just panicking, thinking I'm about to be installed as America's secret dictator. And I don't think I'm even going to the inauguration.
Were you invited?
No. Why? Like, I'm an outsider, man. I'm an intellectual, and the actual ways in which my ideas get into circulation is actually mostly through the staffers and the kind of younger people who basically kind of swim in this very online kind of soup. And
he's talking about the guys that work for Elon.
I think that what's happening now in DC, to sort of distinguish my much more radical ideas from what's happening now, I would say that what's happening now is there's definitely an attempt to revive the White House as an executive organization, which sort of governs the executive branch. And the difficulty with that is if you go to Washington and say to anyone who's professionally involved in the business of Washington that Washington would work just fine or even better if there was no White House at all. And they'll basically be like, yeah, of course. The executive branch works for Congress. So you have these poor voters out there who elected, as they think, a revolution. They elected Donald Trump and, maybe the world's most capable CEO is
right.
in
And your
there.
point is he can't, the way the system's set up, he can't actually get that much done.
He can't actually do.
So terminology that he just said. He said they elected Donald Trump and what is quite possibly the most capable CEO in the world. And in his prior thing that he wrote 3 years ago, he said Donald Trump would get elected and then he would choose a CEO to run the country. He's telling you what is happening right now is exactly what he wanted to happen.
Do that much to it, and he can block things, he can disrupt it, he can create chaos and turbulence or whatever, but he can't really change what it is.
Do you think you're maybe overstating the inefficacy of a president? You could point to the repeal of Roe is something that's directly attributable to Donald Trump being president. You could point one could argue that the COVID response was attributable to Donald Trump being president.
I think the COVID response is a slightly better example. Certainly many things about COVID were different because Donald Trump was president. Here, I'll tell you a funny story.
Sure.
At the risk of bringing my children into the media, in 2016, my son...
Can you tell how uncomfortable the reporter is with this? Like, he does not like having to try to make this a palatable interview. You can tell he wants to argue really bad.
His daughter, he's now 14. He was 6 then. And my children...
The crazy thing is Elon is not the most capable CEO. He's just a grifter who failed upward so many times. It's wild. So yeah, like that's what I'm saying is that like we attribute too much intelligence to people that are really good at certain things. Like I said, Curtis Yarvin here was I think he was a sophomore in high school by the time he was 12 years old. He was he went to a really, really good college. He participated in some presidential program for people that are ridiculously good at mathematics. So we hear all those things and we go, wow, he's really intelligent. But then what we don't take into mind is that just because somebody is really good at one thing doesn't mean that they're good at everything. And you can take a person who, for instance, is incredibly good at math, and then you pose to them some type of like philosophical problem, and their emotional intelligence isn't up to the task, right? Like, so Jordan Peterson's a good example. I used to say all the time about Jordan Peterson, used to say, like, as a psychologist, Like, does he understand like psychology and stuff like that really well? Is he historically well read? 100%. He's very good at all that stuff. But when it comes to like giving advice to people, he's too cold. Like, he believes things are like, you know, you just tell people that they're bad and then they have to recognize that and fix it. And it's like, dude, that's not how anybody works, dog. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, and so he's really good at like the information part. He understands like historically, you know, these figures that he agrees with and their mentalities. But when it comes to giving advice to people, he's fucking dog shit, you know, and now he's crazy. Now he's batshit crazy. So that is just a whole different story. But I think what people see is they go, well, Elon's like the most capable CEO. Well, no, Elon's really good at going into corporations that other people have already started and made successful, and then cutting away what you would call the fat to make shareholders happy. Like, sure, if your idea of a capable CEO is one that provides profits to shareholders, which is, I think, what most people would say, then yeah, he's the most capable CEO. But if human like happiness is what you're going for, that's not Elon Musk. He's a fucking moron.
Children were going to a Shishi progressive Mandarin immersion school in San Francisco. And so
you sent your kids to a sorry, I'm laughing. You sent your kids to a Shishi progressive school.
At the time, Mandarin immersion.
And, the rubber hits the road.
And,
so when the rubber hits the road.
And you can't isolate children in the world, right? You know, and
who is this? I've seen this guy before. I don't remember his name. Let's see if I can find the reporter's name. I should do him the due diligence. Dude. They don't include dude's name in the description? Sorry, my dude. I don't know this fucking reporter's name because they don't include it in the description, nor do they put it on screen. Wow. Wow, New York Times not really supporting their reporter.
And so at the time, my late wife and I did not. We just adopted the simplest
Elon is as Dunning-Kruger as Trump.
Politics
I agree.
In front of the children,
Smart
which
move.
I recommend everyone. And but of course, everyone's talking about it at school, right? And my son comes home and he has this very concrete question. He's like, Pop, when Donald Trump builds a wall around the country, how are we going to be able to go to the beach? And I'm like, wow, you really took him literally. Like, everybody else is taking him literally, but you really took him literally. And I was like, you know, if you see anything in the real world around you over the next 4 years that changes as a result of this election, I'll be surprised.
In one of your recent blog posts, I guess it's a newsletter, not a blog at this point.
Okay, hold on. So the question, if I remember right, the question was, how do you change, what would it look like to change democracy? How would you change it to what you're looking at if it were happening? And that was his answer? What the fuck?
You referred to JD Vance as, I think, as a normie.
Yeah, I could do a reverse image search.
What do you mean?
I would say that the thing that I admire about Vance and the thing that's really remarkable about him as a leader is that I think that he contains within him all kinds of Americans. His ability to connect with like flyover Americans in the world that he came from is, of course, very, very great. But the other thing that's
this is something I told you guys about after the Walz, JD Vance. When Walz debated Vance in the vice presidency, I told you guys, I said, the guy that was really scary is Vance because he's like a pure politician. What he's saying right now is true on the surface, but in reality, JD Vance is not that person. JD Vance can't connect with me. Like, but he could sit there and he could fake it. Like JD Vance, if I sat down with JD Vance, it'd be a really frustrating conversation because he knows how to properly behave. In fact, actually, it kind of goes back to something Natalie was saying about me coming out of the hood and then participating in this culture and whether or not that's difficult. One of the things you learn when you come from like a really shitty area and you move into like a more well-to-do area is you start to understand what you can say and do that's acceptable. And that makes you very good at like playing like personas for people. So like on here, I'm pretty much myself, right? Like I can be me. I can talk to you guys. I've told you guys before, like I don't really have a lot of financial incentives to be on here. So like it's just for the most part, I can just be me. It's nice. But if I'm in a meeting and I'm dealing with, the largest distributor on the West Coast or probably in the nation, that's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, then I have to like kind of adopt a certain type of like professional persona. And when I'm talking to employees, even though sometimes I can be rather harsh or I can be very honest or strict, a lot of times I'm modulating my voice in a way to speak to them. That way they don't get their feelings hurt or they don't get offended. And when I'm with the people I grew up with, well, I have a completely different accent. I am who I am, and I talk about things in a much more crass manner because that's where I come from. And I think that's JD Vance. JD Vance seems to have mastered the ability to kind of chameleon his way into any situation and make people feel as though like he fits in. And he's, he obviously comes from a bit of a white trash background, just like I do. I think that Curtis Yarvin here is like overselling on purpose. He's doing it on purpose. He's selling him for JD, right? Like he's going like, no, like he's a really good dude. He's just a man of the people, but he also can like really talk to other people like that are above his station. Like once again, he's selling it.
About him is that he went to Yale. And
the JD Vance donut shot was perfect. That's true. That's true.
He's a fluent speaker of the language of the New York Times, which you cannot say about Donald Trump. And one of the things that I believe really strongly, that I haven't touched on when I talk about monarchy, is I think that it's utterly essential for anything like an American monarchy. You have to be the president of all Americans. And I think this is something that basically the new administration could do a much better job of reaching out to progressive Americans and not demonizing them.
And so he's speaking true here, because like I said before, these guys aren't conservatives. They're just not progressives either. They're selling a very strange mixture of like a communist liberalist, like it's a weird mixture of ideologies that somehow has a monarch at the top. And that's what I'm saying is like Donald Trump doesn't agree with these people's ideologies. The religious right doesn't agree with their ideologies, and neither does the left or the progressives. These are ideologies that are very unique to people that have billions of dollars, and there's very few of them. That's why it's such a weird
basically
ideology.
Saying, hey, you want to make this country a better place? I feel like you've been misinformed in some ways. You're not a bad person. This is like 10 to 20% of Americans. This is a lot of people are like the NPR class. But they are not bad people, evil people who want to like do, but the thing is, they're human beings. We're all human beings. And like human beings can support bad regimes.
The question was, why did you call JD Vance a normie?
Because he contains within him norminess.
Right,
but he's also an intellectual, and he contains within him intellectualness.
And so, what you just said about, the administration could do a better job of reaching out to progressives. And we're all human beings. As you well know, it's a pretty different stance than the stance you often take in your writing, where you...
Yeah. See? That's where he called him out. This is where it kind of starts with him calling him out. And that's real. Because like I said, just like with Donald Trump and many of these other people, they present a different facade or a different persona dependent on what they're talking to. And that's salesman style. They're really good at it. In his writings are very, very like extreme. His writings include some eugenics stuff. They include some like, some people are going to have to die stuff. And when he's on here, he's trying to kind of talk like, oh, you know what? You guys are going to love it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. You guys just Just get me in there and everything's going to be real good. But behind the scenes, when he's writing, it's completely different because he's speaking to his audience when he's writing. And when he's on here, especially on a New York Times interview, he knows he's speaking to progressives. That's why it's actually like pretty important what he said about the president reaching across the aisle to the left, because he knows he's speaking to progressives when he's talking on New York Times. That means he can get more people on board. This is how MAGA works. MAGA convinces you that the things that they believe aren't that extreme. They say something like, well, you know that an immigrant did kill that jogger, right? And you go, well, yeah, no, I know about that. And they're like, well, that's bad, right? And you're like, well, yeah, wouldn't it be better if there was none of those people around to, just kill random joggers, these poor nursing students? And you're like, well, yeah, I guess I agree. And what they're leaving out is all the other subtext, and that is that not every immigrant is that person. In fact, the majority of immigrants are here, and they don't commit crimes. So something like 2 times more crimes are committed by Americans per capita. They leave out all those things around it, and they're depending on the fact that you're not a critical thinker. They're depending on the fact that your mind doesn't immediately start tracing the paths to the other questions. They want you to just kind of go like, oh, Curtis Yarvin's not a bad guy. He said that the president should be nicer to progressives. That's a pretty good statement. But then you got to recognize all the other shit he says, and this guy's about to call him out for it. Also, something I want to point out that's super hypocritical. So, don't forget that Joe Biden existed, okay? The reason that Joe Biden was in the spot he was in when it came to the Israel-Hamas conflict was because he was trying to be the president for all people, trying to be the president of the United States. He's trying to both accept, because if he wanted to be just a left-wing progressive president, he could have just stood up for the Palestinian people and the left wing, for the most part, not all of them. Obviously, there's people that are Jewish on the left that would have been upset. There's people that aren't Jewish that would have been upset. But for the most part, I think he would have garnered the most amount of votes, or Kamala would have garnered the most amount of votes by speaking up for the Palestinian people. That is a very progressive ideology. But instead, he tried to be the establishment Democrat that he's been his whole life and say like, oh no, I have to like reach across the aisle. I have to do what's right for all Americans. He was a Catholic. He's a legitimate Catholic, not a Donald Trump Catholic, a legitimate Catholic. When everybody talked about how divisive he was for Transgender Day, he literally was like, no, I put out a post for Easter, and I also put out a post for Transgender Day because I want everybody to know I'm their president. So these people try to act like all the things Biden did were really bad. Biden was terrible. He never reached across the aisle, never tried to help conservatives out. Conservatives just got fucked under Biden. No, they didn't. He was just as bipartisan as Clinton was in the 90s and Obama was in the 2000s. And I know a lot of Republicans are like, Obama wasn't, he never ever did anything conservative. Bullshit. He bombed the shit out of brown countries. He fucking gave corporate interests tons of fucking kickbacks, saved the banks. Like, he did tons of shit that was fucking conservative, okay? I love Obama. I really do think Obama was one of the most solid presidents that we've had in the last 30 years. But I'm not going to sit here and act like he didn't do a bunch of shit that was like reaching across the aisle that I disagreed with.
Right, you're laughing because you know it's true. Where you talk about things like de-wokeification, how people who work
those things
at places like the New York Times should all lose our jobs. We should, you have an idea for a program called RAGE, retire all government employees. You have ideas which I hope are satirical about, how to handle non-productive members of society that involve basically locking them in a room forever. So why is your tone?
He did Nixon bin Laden.
Shifted? Is your rhetorical tone different in a setting like this?
You're looking for different. My thinking is definitely not shifted, and you're finding different emphases. It's like when I talk about RAGE, for example,
let's go back
locking them in a room forever. So why is your laughing? Because you know it's true. Where you talk about things like de-wokeification, how people who work
those things
at places like the New York Times should all lose our jobs. We should, you have an idea for a program called RAGE, retire all government employees. You have ideas, which I hope are satirical about, how to handle non-productive members of society that involve basically locking them in a room forever. So why is your tone, has your thinking shifted? Is your rhetorical tone different in a setting like this?
You're looking for different, my thinking is definitely not shifted, and you're finding different emphases. It's like when I talk about rage, for example, both my parents worked for the federal government. They were career, federal employees.
Basically, it's a little on the nose from a Freudian perspective,
it is. But the thing is, basically, when you look at the way to treat those institutions, I'm just like, treat it like a company that goes out of business, but sort of more so because these people, having had power, have to actually be treated even more delicately and with even more respect. And winning means these are your people now. And so the thing is, when you understand the perspective of the new regime with respect to the American aristocracy, their perspective can't be this sort of anti-aristocratic thing of like, we're going to like bayonet all the professors and like, throw them in ditches or whatever. Their perspective has to be that like, you were a normal person serving a regime that did this like really weird and crazy stuff.
How invested do you think JD Vance is in democracy?
It depends what you mean by democracy. I mean, I think that the problem is basically when people equate democracy with good government. When you use that word, you're using a very tricky word. I would say that what someone like, I'm on very safe ground, despite not knowing him well at all, that someone like JD Vance believes essentially in the common good. And the idea that government should serve the common good. And I think that people like JD and people in the sort of the broader intellectual scene around him, which is very varied intellectual scene, would all agree on that principle. Now, if that principle,
pretty good word salad, huh? Real good word salad.
I don't know what you mean by democracy in this context. What I do know is that if
it's like straight up Jordan Peterson right now.
Democracy is against the common good, it's bad. And if it's for the common good, it's good.
I think what you just described might be something that Peter Thiel would agree with. And there was...
I think a progressive could agree with it.
I don't know that that's... I'm reading more into his words than what he's saying. So I disagree with him saying that a progressive would, because in the end, if what the common good, I've said this before, so morality is a subjective thing, and people are going to argue with me with that, but I'm going to just stand on that, because if you live in a society that is ruled by masochists, then masochism is acceptable. If you live in a society, by the way, that accepts slavery, then it's considered good, okay? And it takes a shift in mentality from the people to create a situation where the majority disagrees with what was formerly good for it to change. And that's what happened with the Civil War, right? But for a long period of time, the majority of people within our democracy believed slavery was good. So like saying that like as long as people agree that something is common good, like that's a good society. And that progressives would agree with that. That's not true. I think that for the most part, I think progressives think they want pure democracy. But I think when as to use a term he used earlier, when the rubber hits the road, I don't think that that's true. I think that, myself included, we all agree that regulation is important. I believe that we all agree that laws are important. I think most of us agree that there's a certain line that can't be crossed as far as like what those laws inhibit, as far as like free speech and even like gun rights and stuff like that go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm that's now I'm thinking about all these things, but I disagree with his idea that progressives would agree with his basic statement.
And there was reporting that I saw, I think it was 2017.
Yeah, they're all out of touch,
by
James.
BuzzFeed, where
they're all out of touch. They're billionaires.
Published some emails, I think, between you and
sounds like every burnout I've ever known.
Natalie,
Milo for fucking real.
Where you talked about watching the 2016 election with Peter Thiel and referred to him as fully enlightened. What would fully enlightened have meant in that context?
What fully enlightened for me generally means fully disenchanted. When I look at basically what the kinds of people that I know not really that well in Silicon Valley think, I'm basically like, have people like this been exposed to my ideas? Yes. Do they agree that America should be a monarchy? I doubt it, but I have no idea. But what they agree on is not a belief, but a disbelief. So I think that when a person who lives their life within the kind of, sort of progressive bubble, liberal bubble, use whatever term you like, of, the current year, looks at the right or even the new right or whatever, you want to call it. I think what's hardest to see is that what's really shared is not a positive belief, but an absence of belief. Basically, we don't worship these same gods. We do not sort of see, the New York Times and Harvard as like divinely inspired in any sense, or we do not see their procedures as ones that sort of always lead to truth and wisdom. We do not think that the way the U.S. government works, really works well or seems to be perfect in any respect.
And this absence of belief is what you call enlightened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a disenchantment from like believing in these old.
So it's being a contrarian. It's being a contrarian. And the thing about that is it's became its own belief. That's the craziest thing. Is I've said this about conspiracy theorists recently, is like the strangest thing about conspiracy theory is how it used to be unique to be a conspiracy theorist, and now it's like mainstream to be the conspiracy theorist. So it's like you're saying to yourself that the way to be a part of the majority is to disagree with the majority. And it, to me, okay, let me just put it this way. I think there's a middle ground. I think if somebody were to come to me and say, well, I'm Harvard educated, so that means I'm more intelligent than everybody else, I would disagree. I would say, well, I think I'm going to base that on the context of this conversation. Maybe we could, look into your background, what you've accomplished, and once again, also what defines your intelligence? Are we defining like mathematical intelligence? Are we defining emotional intelligence? Like there'd be so much to it, right? And this is what I think is missing from society, is nuance and balance. So it's the idea that if somebody says to me, this person's conservative, do you dislike them? I'm going to go, I don't know. I don't fucking know him. Let me talk to him. Let me get some, let me get some interactions with him, and then I'll figure out if I do or not. Oftentimes people will go, you hate Trump. And I'm like, I don't know Trump. I think Trump's a really bad leader. I think he's a moron. I think he's not fit to be president. Do I hate him? Like, in what context do you think that I should hate him? Somebody once asked me, one of my friends said, for as much as you dislike Trump, do you think he's a good dad? And I was like, well, I don't know that. But, I mean, if I'm just judging by the fact that his kids are still around, they're still talking to him, sure. I guess he probably, he probably qualifies as a person that his kids don't hate him, Sure. That's what I'm saying is like, that's what's missing from society is like nuance and balance. Like in conspiracy theory and being a contrarian is almost like pushback against too much acceptance. And I get that, but I feel like it's like pushed too far. Like now it's pushed all the way over to the other side of nothing is real and everything must be questioned until it like no longer exists in any form And that's also like bad. Like you should never accept everything as being true, nor should you accept that everything is not true. Instead, you should treat each thing that you come across in the context of what it is, and remember that nothing is black or white. Almost everything is gray. I saw something go past. Oh, thank you, fan, $5. Progressives equals meritocracy, not pure democracy like Twitter. Social media is the same as an addiction. It is truly a mental illness. We do not disagree on that, fan. I've told you guys before, like I'm for the TikTok ban, and not because of I'm for the TikTok ban, not because of China even stealing our information and stuff. I know that the next step would be just somebody else create something, or people just go to a different social media platform. But I do genuinely believe that our culture is completely overstimulated and completely undereducated, and we spend way too much time ingesting really short form content in memes and TikToks that they gratify us but don't educate us. We think we did because they agree with our bias, because the algorithm has fed us things that we agree with. And that's why, like, a lot of times I'm like, I say things to you guys like, you're going to disagree with me. Like, I don't care. Like, that's fine. Like, you should. Like, there are things that I say that I'm so happy that you guys don't agree with me on, because we shouldn't all be the same. You shouldn't ingest the content and just be like, everything I say is the gospel. Instead, you should, like, think about the things that get said and then decide whether or not you agree with them. And I think social media has created this, like, sphere. I guess just echo chambers is a great example, or a great term for it. These echo chambers where people hide from conflicting information, and there's times where conflicting information is legitimately bad, right? Like, if you're a black person and you're constantly being called the N-word by people around you, like, you deserve to not have to deal with that, you know? So a person seeking other African Americans because these people that they're around call them the N-word all the time, like that's acceptable. There's I think people oftentimes they exist on the extremes, and like I said, balance. It's all about balance, man. But social media, I think, is an extreme negative currently. Twitter is fucking cesspool. Like, I don't go on X, but I go on to find tweets and stuff from people that I'm going to use in videos. And I can tell you guys, as an experiment, like, I will be in a perfectly good mood making a video, like, just like fucking going about my thing, doing my thing. All right, okay. Oh, I got to go get this tweet. And I'll get on X and I'll start scrolling to find something that, like, makes sense for what I'm looking for. And my mental health declines rapidly on X. And I don't even mean just looking at right-wing stuff. It is a right-wing cesspool, but also, like, the left-wing stuff. Like, it's just like, it's all just like the most negative, angry, hateful, just like disturbing shit. And like, so it's even hard for me to get on there and even look at X to get fucking things off of it. So yeah, I'm with you on the social media shit.
Systems, and the right thing that should replace that disenchantment is not, oh, we need to go do things Curtis's way, and is basically just a greater openness of mind and a greater ability to look around and say, you know, like, we just assume that our political science is superior to Aristotle's political science because our physics is superior to Aristotle's.
Hey, you like it? I called that. I knew it. And I guess that's not really like that hard of a thing to call. I think most people that are involved even a little bit in politics have read Politic from Aristotle. But I can hear the bastardization of some of Aristotle's opinions in the way that he talks. I really, really dislike
physics. What if that isn't so?
You're basically saying there's a historical and political recency bias that people are susceptible to.
Exactly.
But I think the thing that you have not quite isolated yet is why having a strong man figure would be better for people's lives. Can you answer that question?
Because number one, I think that having an effective government and an efficient government is better for people's lives. And I think that, you know, the best answer, when I ask people to answer that question, I sort of ask them to look around the room and basically point out everything in the room that was made by a monarchy. Because these things that, you know, these things that we call companies are actually little monarchies.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're looking around yourself and you see, for example, a laptop. And that laptop was made by Apple, which is a monarchy. And it has a little thing on it that says designed in California and made in China.
Right. Yes, this is an example you use a lot where you say, and if Apple ran California, wouldn't that be much better run?
Whereas if your MacBook Pro was made by the California Department of Computing, you can only imagine it. I'm sorry, I'm here in this building and I keep forgetting to make my best argument for monarchy, which is that people trust the New York Times more than any other source in the world. And how is the New York Times managed? It is a 5th generation hereditary absolute monarchy. And so we've basically taken in some ways, like, and this was very much the vision of the early progressives, by the way. The early progressives.
See, he should just use the word that he should want to use, and that is that they're CEOs. He needs to stop using the word monarchy. Because in a monarchy, it's usually hereditary. Like, he's just... this is, I think, going to be a semantic argument for me. I think he likes using the word monarchy, but really what he's talking about is people being raised to their position because of what is assumed to be their ability. I mean, like, the New York Times might be owned by a 5th generation person, but it's probably ran by people that are competent at their job.
Even like the pre-World War I progressives, you go back to, a book like, Drift and Mastery, are very...
I have to say, I find the depth of background information to be... obfuscating rather than illuminating.
But how can I change that? How can I make that?
By answering the questions more directly and succinctly, I think would be the simple reply.
Fine, I'll try.
But
you like that? That's good pushback. I like that. The background information seems to be more obfuscating, and then he straight up just tells him, answer the question more succinctly and to the point.
But the thing I'd like to say, just to tie this back a little bit to something we spoke about a minute ago, is there is this idea that the incoming Trump administration is interested in the idea of a more powerful executive office. Are there things that you would like to see, or if you saw them, would be hints to you that the Trump administration is taking the right steps, as you might see it, towards actually enacting that reality and becoming a stronger executive, a more monarchical executive office?
I would say that the incoming Trump administration, with all due respect, and there's a lot of great people there and people who are working extremely hard. Unfortunately, I would say that they're essentially finding themselves in a position where they're trying to untangle the Gordian knot. And
meaning what?
Meaning that they're basically trying to, let's take just NASA in specific. So
when he uses some of these analogies, I can't help but think that he's making a different implication. And maybe that's bias on my part. But isn't it like the idea that when the Gordian knot was finally, unknotted, it was because Alexander the Great cut it with his sword, like he slashed it with his sword, and he was like, "Done, got it, biatches." Like, isn't that like, to me, that's like dudes like trying to imply like the way to deal with the situation is just to eviscerate it and you should be fine. Everything's good.
For example, if you compare NASA to SpaceX, that's a fine example of actually all of the principles that I've been describing, because NASA was once as efficient as SpaceX. So if you basically say, okay, at a very abstract level, forget the rest of the government, Elon, go and fix NASA, right? The goal of NASA is to give us cool space shit. We feel like we're not getting enough cool space shit. You have $25 billion a year. Go and do cool space shit. I think you would get a lot more cool space shit under that principle. But one of the basic principles of kind of the California startup way of thinking is just to realize it's way easier to create a new NASA than it is to fix the old NASA. And that principle extends sort of...
Bro, the NASA sent a James Webb telescope into space to look back on the beginnings of the universe. What do you mean they're not doing enough cool space shit? Like, for the most part, like, it's the funding is a problem for NASA. It's not NASA, it's the funding for NASA. And one of the few things that, like I've said, that Donald Trump actually did a good job at was that Donald Trump funded NASA. Like, one of the things that I think people on the left have pushed back against me in the past about is that I'm all for space exploration, whereas like a lot of progressives feel like it's a waste of money. You should be taking care of like the homeless people, the veterans, the poor, the sick. Like that money could go to like helping people. And generally my counter argument is that like we actually create a lot of really good stuff that helps poor people, that helps with creating food supply, people that have problem with food supply inadequacies. A lot of like the NASA stuff helps with that, like creates things, because we have to create food that can be preserved. We have to be able to create, new technology to communicate, things that have really brought us together. Like, why would we need to create a new NASA? The James Webb Telescope is, I don't know. Do people just not get how big of a thing that was? That's probably true. People probably don't understand how big James Webb was. Like, God, I wish I knew that. I can't remember the documentary I watched, but like the chances of the James Webb Telescope succeeding were like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000 or something like that. Is crazy. One of the things I hate, I think the most about our culture is when we succeed at something, we move on immediately and we never take a breath to be like, wow, we did that. The James Webb Telescope is an accomplishment that like was like no one could have ever imagined. It's that insane. It's that insane.
Sort of around the government.
Oh yeah.
Your
damn it.
Ideas, and I guess has been called like sort of a neo-reactionary cast.
Shut it, Mike.
Are seemingly increasingly
it's not a clown
popular
show.
in
No clowns
Silicon
today.
Valley.
Not clowning.
Don't you think
we're talking about important stuff?
Some level on
Damn
which
it, Mike.
that world is responding to your ideas because you're just telling them what they want to hear? If more people like me were in charge, things would be better. It's an ideologically useful set of arguments for them
amazing.
To
exactly.
The funny thing is, I think that's almost the opposite of the truth. It's like, let me give you a very simple illustration of this. Someone I have actually never met, believe it or not, who is Elon Musk. Now, Elon tweeted the other day, he was like, the proper structure of government on Mars should be not just a democracy, but a direct democracy. Let me sort of examine the thinking behind Musk saying this, because I find it sort of extremely odd in a sense. Like, because one of the things about monarchy that's been known for quite some time, and again, we've been in very, very anti-monarchical regimes and periods, an exception is made for this, is that a ship always has a captain. Mm-hmm. An airplane always has a captain. Basically, in any very safety-critical environment,
you should have someone in charge.
You should have someone in charge. Yeah. But the thing is, you look at basically a Mars colony, and you're just like, really? Are the citizens of the Mars colony going to vote on like how to like replenish the oxygen supply or whatever? Like, no, of course.
Yeah. So this is Aristotle. It's aristocracy. He's talking about aristocracy. Like I said, it's just that he's bastardizing it. He's taking like things that legitimately have like strong backbones that can stand on their own, and he's using them in a way to like explain like extreme ideologies. It's almost like that. It's like being a precipice person, right? It's like saying to yourself, like, you're consistently needing to do these extreme things because they're necessary. And actually, ironically, Elon Musk constantly does this. Elon Musk constantly talks about things in like extreme ways. That was a disaster. If we don't do this, we'll be doomed. There's this interview I was watching with a woman actually just called out like today, like shitting on her. But I think she was a reporter for Wired. And she was saying in her interview with Elon Musk, he like kept using all this like extreme terminology about like how we're doomed and all of these things, right? Like, oh no, I lost my thought. What the fuck was I saying? I'm gonna have to like, I need to record myself and then like play myself back. I'm actually getting tired now. I think I got my wife's cold. I'm starting to feel the cold, I think. That'd be really bad for tomorrow. So what was I saying? Ah, fuck. He bastardizes these things. Oh, well, fuck it. We'll move on. Aristotle said that oligarchy is a corruption of the nobility. Yeah, oligarchy. So Aristotle believed that oligarchy was the the exact opposite of like pretty much what he would determine as being communism. He didn't say communism back then, but the complete and utter overthrow of the government, where like every single person had the right to like decide on anything, because he believed like the populace wasn't really like smart enough to do that. But I am getting tired. Oh, I don't do more than 3 hours, guys. I think this is like the most I've ever done. Yeah, the squirrel just ran away. It ran away. I don't think I have anything left. Oh, it's an IT lady. Oh, what did she say? What did she say about fucking Musk? I guess I could probably play that video. I think I have it. This lady. Oh, it was this Ezra Klein. Let's see if I can play it.
I'm here to fix it. Or everything sucks and everybody previously is criminal or evil. Pedophile is a word he likes to use a lot, but he uses the terms like evil.
This is literally what I was talking about.
In one tweet, he called Yoel Roth, who was head of trust and safety at Twitter, who he did like until he quit, and then he became evil. In one tweet, he called him evil, and I was seething with hate, which is really dramatic and ridiculous. I'm not seething with hate.
Very Trumpian.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I think he means it, though. I think Trump sometimes is just doing it for show, showman, a reality show kind of thing.
Oh, can't remember. Doesn't Titus have a new one out? I do need a pillow. Oh, you did cardio while doing this, Jane? Nice. I think we're gonna call it. I think I'm brain dead. I've lost it. The moment that brain cell jumped off the cliff. The moment that brain cell just jumped off a cliff during that thought process, I'm like, this is it. That's the end. Seriously, they've been playing schoolyard games like, nuh-uh, it's your fault, nuh-uh, it's your fault, nuh-uh, it's your fault. It's going to do that. We should go infantile. Well, I've told you before, I'm not beyond that. I think that there's a level in which the left has to remember it can't go high when they go low. You can't. It doesn't appeal to everyday people. It doesn't. And it to be honest with you, it doesn't appeal to everyday left-wing people. Because no one likes to be bullied. Nobody likes to be fucked with. And I think what people have made a mistake on is that like the left-wing thinks like, oh, I shouldn't defend this person that I normally defend. And I'm talking about the higher-ups, right? I shouldn't defend this person that I normally would defend, because if I do, then I'm going low just like them. And what that does is you leave a person out in the cold, right? Like someone gets shit on for something, and the guy on the left doesn't want to help because he doesn't want to be the aggressor in the situation. And what that does is that creates a person who got bullied that's like, oh, well, that person didn't defend me, so I don't have anybody over here to help me. And then over on the right, they're happy to defend you no matter what and act like assholes no matter what. And so then you lose that person because they're like, well, I might not agree with them ideologically, but at least they stand up for me, So, yeah, I'm with that too. Yeah, Tony Michael's liberal. Silent. Exactly silent. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being here for the early show. Thanks for listening to me talk about things I want to talk about instead of just being a clown. I know Mike wants me to be a clown, and I do be clownish, okay? I do be clownish every once in a while. But also, I think this is really important, and also, people have finally started talking about it. It's been months of me talking about these things, and people are finally talking about it. It fucking makes me so happy to, like, have people catch up to where the fuck I've been this whole time. I've been talking to Adam Mockler about it. I've been talking about Benjamin Dixon about it. I'm trying to get them to talk about it too. Kyle Kalinske talked about it. Fan! Thank you, Fan. 20 memberships. Jesus Christ, Fan. You got Felicia. You got Felicia in there. Thank you so much, Fan. You're the best. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, Super Bowl's tomorrow, so you guys probably won't see me for a couple days because I'm either going to be hungover because I'm happy or I'm going to be hungover because I'm sad, okay? So, root for my Eagles. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in good vibes. I believe in the good vibes. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Look more into this shit when you're not talking to me. I want you guys to start schooling me on some of this Curtis Yarvin shit, guys. No matter what retarded shit I say. I love you, fan. I do love you. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And next show will be Wednesday.